Yo, what's up, guys? We're looking at a new RTA tier list, so gonna be doing that on stream as well. Stream, you can say hi to your feature self for the video. I did ask in a poll which has been voted with millions and millions and millions. Only 65 people voted, but whatever. But the majority of the people voted for me making a P3 to G1 tier list rather than a G3 tier list, which I have been doing with the most amount of the time. Like, I think for the last, I don't know how many years that I've been doing tier lists, I always did a G3 tier list because that's where I have most knowledge. However, a P3 to a G1 tier list is just a way bigger player base, whereas G3 people mostly kind of know what they're doing anyways. They don't need my tier list that much, whereas a P3 to a G1 player might actually be looking at a tier list and then feel like, hey, I can maybe pick in a unit here and there, and then listen to my explanation why I would place that unit over there. So for that reason, I'm going to be doing a P3 to a G1 tier list. However, it might be a little bit less accurate because, of course, I have more experience in the G3 quadrant than in a P3/G1 quadrant. However, I do play a plethora of amount of accounts, which is like a decent amount out there. So I do have my fair share knowledge on those as well. Plus, I, of course, have the MSW ranking, which I will be using as just a little bit of a side tracking, checking win rates, checking what they're good against. Also checking between like G1s, G2s, G3s, whatever. Besides that, we also, of course, have the tiers that I always do with the numbers. So we have 100 all the way going down to 55, and then everything below 1.5% pick rate, I do not have to include. I could include them, but I think if they're below 1% pick rate, I will for sure not include them. So if you don't find your weird as Racuni not on the list, then yeah, that is because everything else is in this tier. Pretty much, simple as that. Why the numbers, might you ask, if you're the first time watching a tier list of mine? That is because I like to use the numbers because it gives me a chance to put a tier in between. If I feel like something is worse than the 100 tier, but better than the 95 tier, I can make a 97.5, which I can't really do with a double S.5 or double S with a small s. That's just kind of weird, but with the numbers, I pretty much can do that. However, this just means triple S, double S, S, A, B, blah, 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 all the way down. It's just a comparison of unit on one tier to another tier, or are they on the same tier? Simple as that. With that, I'm also going to be doing this as kind of a podcast style in the case that someone is just watching this on the background. I will try to name the number where I place them in the tier and then also which unit it is. I have the habit of saying this unit in this tier, and then you'll be looking like I have no clue what you're talking about because I wasn't watching the video. I was just listening to you. So I'll try to do my best to keep that part in. And that is pretty much all there is to it. So different than normal, P3 to a G1 RTA tier list. Plus we have a whole bunch of units out there that are viable right now. I also did include the JJK units, but I only think that the Gojos Light and Dark are value enough to be placed in potentially right now, rather than all of the others, because they are literally like 30% win rate, 40% win rate, 0.5% pick rates, and those kind of bullcraps. Also, if you feel like your unit is placed too high because it's your LD5 and therefore you feel like it's gonna get nerfed, I do not influence what is gonna get buffed or what is gonna get nerfed. As far as I know, maybe I can only take credit for nerfing Lima because I placed Lima at 100 and no one was using Lima except for me, and then it got nerfed. But besides that, I don't think I influence anything on that too much. I'm just pointing out what is strong at the moment, and they know what is strong at the moment, and therefore they nerf it. So I don't think that this tier list has too much influence on buffs and nerfs. But yep, that's all I gotta say about it. So let's start off with some units. So I always start off with a good old Han. Let's see. So in this case, we're also going to be switching between Punisher and G1. I will mention, however, for some units, like, okay, if it had G3 runes or G3 quality of other units next to it or artifacts, then it would be higher ranked than normally is. So for that reason, I will still be mentioning G3 things. If they're lower placed, let's say a Laura, for example, it's a little bit lower placed in lower ranks, higher placed in higher ranks, same for Bella. All of these units that need like crazy artifacts mainly are the ones that tend to do higher in G3. So I'll be still mentioning those if I do see those around. But we're first starting off with a Han. Han in Punisher has about a 50 win rate, 5 pick rates. In G1 has a little bit higher, 51, and then a 6. I do think it goes even up. Yep, it's definitely one of those units. Han is one of those units that shines with better rune quality, better units to be paired with, a whole bunch of those things. So I would say Han for P1 or P3-G1. I think he's probably an 85. It's always with the first few units that they're a little bit more inaccurate, and then I start switching them, because it's not necessarily Han is a certain rank, but Han is a certain rank because of something next to it or before it or after it. So for now, I think I place it at 85. I do think for sure that with G3 runes and artifacts, it definitely goes up a little bit. Then we're gonna go next to some Valkyries, because I don't think any of these are used. I might look at Talisha. Talisha is actually an interesting one, or Talisha, or whatever her name is, which is a unit that might be used a little bit more in G1 and Punisher, because it's paired with a Ragdoll. But then again, it is paired with a Ragdoll or a Leo, but I think only people with Ragdoll actually do tend to use it, so it is not that much on pick rate as well. So I don't think it's nothing that crazy. I'm not going to place it in, like, if you have a Ragdoll, then sure it works. Without a Ragdoll, don't even mention it. Icarus, I do want to give a quick check as well. Always these units that are a little bit lower in these lists, so they're a little bit harder to find. But no, pick rate in these are incredibly low. Don't even have to place it in. Nope, we're actually going to go on to some Camillas and stuff. Good old Camilla. Camilla is just below a 50 win rate in Guardian, 3% pick rate. Punisher also a little bit below that. Okay, I think I'll place it around 75. I think it is a good pick, but if you want to place it in, you probably have to focus some good runes to it to make it work. And I think for a lot of the Punisher / G1 people out there, they rather put those good runes somewhere else than on a Camilla. However, I do feel like a Camilla, if you just go Violent Blade, which is definitely something you don't see too much, Blade on units, it is definitely a set that could work on Camilla. And if you would give a little bit better runes, just Fire Blade on this, because you don't need Revenge, you don't need Nemesis, like most of the times they're ignored anyways. Just put this thing in against fire units and then Fire Blade, 85 crit rate, you're probably good to go. So I think that this unit might be a little bit underrated for people, even in G3 though. Let's look at Vanessa, one of the highest pick rate units out there. Actually has a pretty low win rate. I want to see if this is the highest pick rate unit. No, it's number 5 highest pick rate in Punisher. And in G1, it is number, what is that? 6, pretty much. So win rate is not the highest out there, but it is pretty much just a spam pick, and everyone picks it, first picks it, has to ban it. It is very strong if you go for those single target hits. It is just super strong out there. And I think because of the first pick potential on that unit, I am going to place it on 90. I think it's just one of the better first picks that you can pick out there right now. And there's a lot of good first picks right now. That is definitely true. But she's definitely one of those that just works very well. Does she have higher win rate in? Yeah, she does have higher win rate in G3. I think for that, because her win rate is a little bit on the low side in Punisher, I would place it on 85, because she does need to be paired with units that can actually potentially one-shot. And if you can't do that, she goes a little bit down. However, there's a lot of Ragdoll players out there that like to play Ragdoll, but don't use Vanessa Ragdoll. I think if you're a Ragdoll player, start using Vanessa Ragdoll. It's incredibly strong, because you have a really good protection on your Ragdoll, and therefore you can build your Ragdoll on more damage. Just makes things a lot easier that way. Then we move on to Achroma, which is actually a unit I started to like quite a lot if you put very good runes to it. But then I'm talking about pretty much one of your best bruiser sets towards that unit. It's interesting to see that this is a unit that's absolutely not picked up that much in Guardian 1 and Punisher, which is interesting because I do think that Guardian 1 and Punisher are still looking a lot at Sierra, Zibala, Dark Robo kind of drafts. And with all of those units in there, I think an Achroma is incredibly strong. But once again, similar to Camilla, you actually have to put very good runes to it to make it work. So I would personally say for Guardian rank, I would probably place it even one higher, even though that it doesn't show that much pick rate, but that's just my feeling on the unit. But I'll give it a 75. Once again, does need Violblade. It does need very good high damage sets to make it work. But I definitely do think that she is worth it, because you are going to see, let's see how much the pick rate is of Punisher rank. Sierra pretty high up, Zibala very high up. Dark Robo's probably somewhere around the line here as well. Yeah, those are definitely units that you do tend to see a lot. And Achroma is a super good counter against those. It's not used as much. I think it's a little bit underrated, but it's definitely good. I want to see if Trinity is on the list, or it's just Claw playing with Trinity, but let's actually see what Trinity does for win rate right now. Actually doesn't have the lowest of pick rate. It is about 1% on both sides, actually. Interesting. So in G3, it really falls off. So that is an interesting to see where Trinity does fall off in G3, but it is decently okay in the other ranks, and that is because of cleaves. So for cleaves, it's actually not too bad. Like if you want to make a cleave with a Trinity, I do think it is usable. I think I'm going to one down it though, because is it really the best in slot for your cleave always? Not too sure. You really need your specific comp around it, and then it would potentially work. But if you really want to cleave and you do have a Trinity, I do think that it is a pretty decent, usable unit for sure. So definitely want to give credit where credit due and place it in. 95 for death threats. Well, keep them sending over, I'm fine. I'm not gonna put that 95. Oh, hell no. Let's see if Clara is used in lower ranks. Nope, nope. Would not recommend to use that either. Nope. Eshir, though. Let's look at a good old Eshir. That is something that's used throughout all ranks. Doesn't have the highest of win rate in pretty much all ranks out there. About like 49, 48 and a half. But it is still one of those very strong units that's just overall pretty good. However, do I value him pretty high in current meta? I think that there's other units out there that are speed chasing right now that are just a lot better, and that kind of makes Eshir falls off a little bit more. Plus, Eshir was really good where you had a lot of AoE hits with the add damage. Let's say a Moor, let's say a Chungpung, let's say those kind of things that really want to have a speed buff. Whereas right now, the Chandra, the Velajul, the Cigar, do they really need a speed buff? It's not as much. So I think for that reason, Eshir does fall off a little bit. And I'm going to put him on 80. But 80 is still like a very good unit. Like, it's absolutely not that he's like trash or anything. But he fell off a little bit compared to previous season, in my opinion. Let's see, is Verrat. Verrat is used a little bit, but it is below 1% pick rate. So I think that he can be used, but below 1% pick rate, I'm not going to place him in. It's just a slightly too low of the pick rate to place that in. Verdi Birdie. Let's see how Verdi Birdie does in G1. Okay, it's actually interesting because Vert, Triple Revenge Vert in most cases is the same rune for like a G3 player to a G1 player. Sure, a G1 player maybe has it a little bit slower, a little bit less tanky, but in most cases it's somewhat of the same-ish style of runes. Plus, you can also still put Vert on a lot of different styles of runes. We all know how Vert works, right? So I'm just going to put Vert on 80. I think it's just an overall solid unit. And I think he's kind of the same throughout all ranks. Like a G3 Vert wouldn't do anything more. Like, sure, could be a 180 Revenge Vio Vert or whatever, but you don't see that all too much in the first place. Going back to Dragons, Chimera. Is it Chimera Tablo? Chimera really fell off in G3, 46 win rate. Guardian 1 and Punisher. Actually, Chimera has a pretty good win rate. And I'm somewhat not surprised about that, because you do tend to see a lot more cleaves in lower ranks. And I do think Chimera, for that reason, has a lot more value in those cleaves. And then it's probably just like I think your Tablo Chimera kind of cleave. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still rocking something along those lines. Yeah, yeah, also with Siri, yeah, it's a lot of those cleave kind of style, Tablo kind of cleaves. I do think that in Punisher rank, especially if you have the good Swift runes for it, Chimera cleave can be pretty strong, actually. So it's not the highest of pick rates that I'm going to super high value him, but 75, if you want to work at a cleave, it's one of those things that could potentially do something for you. Moving on next with a Zerath. Let's see what the Zerath does in lower ranks. It is a cleave that we do see in G3 with a few people. But does it really work? Actually, it has about the same win rate on all of them, like 51.5. It is pretty much the same thing to me as like you have to have your very specific cleave to make it work around the whole thing to get anywhere, and otherwise it's not that great. So I'm just going to put Zerath at a 70. Good thing about Zerath for your Zerath cleave, however, is that Zerath does have the healing skill too, which is very good. Plus, the skill 1 does deal a good amount of damage. So it's not just all about the skill 1. He has a little bit more going for him than just that. Then a unit that is potentially one of the highest out there, Julian. Let's see how Julian works in different ranks. So in G3, we do see a 53.33 win rate. In G1, we see a 51.50. Punisher, we see a 52. So Julian is not super hard to rune. You just need, well, it doesn't have a crit awakening, so you need the crit, you need the speed. But afterwards, it's just crit damage, and you don't really care about how tanky it is and everything, and it just does incredibly well. I do think that a G3 Julian would do a lot more damage, probably has a lot better artifacts on those crit damages as well. But I do still think that a Julian in lower ranks is probably one of the stronger units out there. It is just maybe a little bit weaker because it's not paired with the best units that could be next to it, like a Twins Angel or anything like that. He only needs 70 crit rate. Yep. But you do go for all the way from like 15 crit rate. So technically, a lot of the units that would be similar style as Julian would already have like a 30 base. So you do have like that trade-off in there. But the main thing about Julian is he's unkillable. Like he's just super, super hard to kill. And for that reason, he's just very good. And he has an insane amount of damage. The only thing is he always needs an armor break in front of him to make that potential work. And I think that G3 players are probably better at getting that armor break potential in than that you see in Punisher and G1. So if you want to upgrade your game, you have a Julian, try to get those armor breaks in, mainly from like Vanessa or the Water Twin Angels. What do you think about Lima? We'll get to Lima in a second, but Lima's not as great at the moment. That's a sneak peek that I can give you right there. Let's see about Cadiz Nuts. Does anyone use that unit in lower ranks? Nope. And nope. And for good reason. Would not recommend to use that as well. Moving on next. Theor. Do I actually... Wait, do I have the other ones in there? Yep, I do. They're just mixed up a little bit. Theor. Do we see a lot of Theor? G3, definitely not much. Guardian, not much. Punisher, not much as well. Okay, definitely not a unit we see too much. Raccoon, not too much. Lagmaron, I do have feeling that we might see a little bit more in lower ranks. Because it is part of the Tablo kind of cleave and a bunch of other things. Still not picked as much. The pick rates are pretty low on that. Who would be 100? Maybe there's nothing on 100. That could be, right? So nothing is super OP in current meta. That could be a thing. But yeah, Lagmaron, you can use it for cleave, but it's not used as much as well. Let's go to a Jean. Let's see, Jean is probably... I'm pretty sure that is used. I do also think that Jean is better outside of G3, like in lower ranks than G3. Like, yeah, 50 win rate in G3, 52 in G1, Punisher 51. And I definitely, I definitely do think that that makes a lot of sense because in the end, you don't need crit rate for it. You just need a lot of damage on it. Sure, he has low base speed. That is kind of his issue. He's not picked as much, though. So for the pick rate, I definitely would want to lower him. But I do think that a Jean would pretty much work. It is just a lot of damage what he gives to it. And he's not super hard to rune. You do need a good amount of speeds, though. But you could even, like, if you don't have the fire runes to make your Jean work, just put him on Swift. Like, by all means, it's not the worst. I would not put him in storage and not use him at all. If I personally would pull away Jean, I would probably put him on Swift. I wouldn't pick him as much, but I would definitely be using him. And on lower ranks, I definitely recommend to have him ruined as well, because AoE stuns, doesn't touch the enemy, can definitely work out very well. Let's see about Zeratul. Zeratul, ooh, there's actually a 1.5% pick rate in Punisher with a 52.5 win rate. That is definitely not too bad. About Guardian, even 53.5. Not too bad as well. G3, it falls off. Okay, makes sense, makes sense. I do think that he is a little bit weaker, but I do think that Zeratul has some potential that it's probably slept on as well. In bruiser fights, he definitely will do very good. Plus, you have right now where he starts healing a lot. And I think it's one of those things that people underestimate. You really have to kill a Zeratul fast. If you don't kill the Zeratul fast enough, it starts healing, it starts being annoying. It's just very annoying. I'm actually going to one down the Jean as well, because it's not picked that much. So if I put 70 on the Zeratul, it's only but fair to put 75 on this one, because in the end, it is not picked that much. It does have good win rate, but it doesn't have that much. Do you have a website for tips and tricks? Yeah, it's called my YouTube channel. No, I don't have a specific website for that. No, I don't. Let's go to the birds. And the birds one, the only one out there actually right now is Jara, which is going to be interesting. I'm very curious to see if Jara will be on a decent pick rate right now. In G3, Jara has a 44 win rate. Wait, that is super low. I totally expected more than that. 48 on G1. Okay, that's... Okay, more of a fun-ish unit than a really great unit in this. But truth to be told, it is usable. I think it is pretty interesting. It is usable. You can use it into like a Hay Gang and then still strip, stun, armor break, and kill something through a Hay Gang passive and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. It's apparently not doing as crazy good. It does have a pretty high ban rate. Yeah, someone just mentioned that the ban rate, or that it mostly gets banned. Let's actually check the in the match and outside of the match, because does it actually work better if it's in the match or outside of the match? No, if it's led through in the match, it actually does worse. Okay, that's weird. But I do feel like Jara can maybe pack a punch or two. But it's maybe also a little bit too squishy and easy to kill off, and therefore it's still better in Siege than anything. But he was mentioned, so let's put him in there. Now we go for a Valkyrja, which pretty sure it is very meta in G3. But in Punisher, also one of the highest pick rate units, probably 34. G1 also, yep. I do think that the big difference between a G3 Valkyrja and a Punisher slash Guardian 1 Valkyrja is that a G3 Valkyrja would probably do a lot more damage. I think that that is the main thing that you would see out there. But in general, the win rates of them is pretty high. And it's just, in general, just hard to deal with a Valkyrja. So I think I'll place Valkyrja. Yeah, I'm going to place Valkyrja 95. Because if you see the win rates of all of these units compared to the pick rates, then Valkyrja is the only one that is on a very high win rate. Plus is still aiming at higher than 51 on the win rate. And for this one, for G1, it is a little bit lower, but still the one that's closest to 51 while still having a high pick rate. So Valkyrja for me is absolutely one of those units that if you haven't been starting to draft that one, start drafting that one, or try to find your good counters into it, because it is definitely a very dominant unit right now that you do want to know how to beat. How to beat it? Well, I think things like Miles and stuff, or just Sierras if you land your bomb. So a lot of things that can kill it, because in the end it's a defense type unit, so it will have its take on that. Artemil has a very high win rate, not that much pick rate though. So win rate is like 52-ish on both Punisher and G1. G3 it actually goes up. Pick rate is just about 1%, so it's definitely not used as much, but I do think that Artemil is a very strong unit as well. Yeah, it's just one of those super late picks. I do think that it's probably a pretty high ban rate on it as well. Yeah, if it actually is led through in the match, it does go up in win rate. So it's really one of those super strong 5th picks. I'm gonna one-up it for that, because I think that you are actually a really slept on, insanely strong 5th pick. That if people use it right, it's just very deadly. Fermion. I'm not sure if people actually use a Fermion in lower ranks. I would be surprised though. Not that much at all. You've seen Triple Seal on Arda. I would still go for, I think the best set out there is Seal Despair, but not everyone has crazy good Seal runes yet. So if you go something else than that, it's not bad. I do see a lot of people go 100 res. I think if you go super high damage and low speed and it's more of like a Leo counter, I think it is fine too. But yeah, Fermion kind of sucks. That is true. So we're not going to place that in. We're going to move on to some Oracles. So Oracles, recently, Gian has been buffed, but we're starting off with the Praha. Praha in G3, that is a 48.70. Guardian 1 is actually close to a 52 win rate. Okay. Punisher, same thing. They're low on pick rates, but I do think that they are pretty strong. It is just that you have to put the right runes to it. So it is one of those units that has to be faster than your whole team, blah, blah, blah. Do you have the rune quality for it? Often not really, but if you do think about it, or if you don't have anything that you want to put your fast runes to, I think that a Praha is pretty strong. So Praha gets a 75 for me for that reason. Moving on next to a Juno. I definitely do think that a G3 Juno would do a lot better, and that has a lot more to do with artifacts. Yeah, G3 Juno 52 in win rate. Guardian 1 and Punisher, it's close to 50. So that is definitely a big difference in rune quality and all of those kind of things. But I still do think that a Juno is just very impactful. Everyone should have a good Juno runed up, and Juno gets an 85 from me. But Juno would definitely get a 90 in G3. But in this rank, I would say 85 is fine for her. Then we go to Sierra, which became once again a first pick. Often spammed with Zibala and those kind of things. Punisher just under 50 win rate. Guardian 50.5. and in Guardian 3, 51. So what you do see with Sierras these days is that they go speed, attack, attack, and they go high on bomb damage in the artifacts. So is there any use for having Juno on Vaio? No, you go Despair or Vampire, that's about it. But Sierra, I do think it is a very strong unit out there right now. I do think that a G3 Juno would go to 90, but I think in here, Juno is a little bit hard to ruin with enough tanky stats, enough accuracy, enough attack, enough bomb damage artifacts to actually snipe things out. So I am going to give Juno, or I am going to give this Sierra a 85 as well. I think that is a fair placement. Someone's asking before about Lima, so let's see how Lima does in lower ranks, because in G3 I do know that she fell off a little bit. I think in low ranks maybe she, yeah, G3 46, very low. 50 in Guardian 1, Punisher also about 50. Yeah, it is about the same as a Praha. I would value her slightly worse than Praha. So if you have the choice between one or the other, I would probably favor Praha, but it is not worth to put Praha or put Lima whole tier for that below that. I think they're kind of on same-ish level in these ranks. But yeah, if you have a choice, I would probably favor Praha. Unless you're really fighting a lot of wind units and your whole draft is water-based already, then this might make more sense. And we go for Gianna, which has recently been buffed to be incredibly strong once again. Let's see what that shows for her rank. So in G3, she is 52.80, which is probably one of the higher win rates for the spammed out units. G1, a little bit lower, but still pretty high on a 51.80. And then we have a 51.65 for that. So Gianna is just very fair, also a 95 unit. I don't think I would put it higher than a 95 unit, but she's absolutely very strong. If she would have had higher win rates in G1, or if she had higher win rates in G1 and Punisher than in G3, I would have maybe put her higher on 100, but I think she is fair with a 95 as the rest of the units. Let's see, then we move on to some OGs. Annabelle, I don't think people really use too much Annabelle these days. Annabelle. Where you at? Right over there. Nope, not used enough, not used enough, not used enough. Okay, we move on to Rika. That one will most likely be used. Just 1.5% in G3 in these ranks. It is below 1%, but I do still want to pick it in. I think she has a little bit of issues of finding the right place to be picked in. But if you find the right place to pick her in, it is pretty much a must ban. And if you don't ban it, you're going to lose. So I think that it might be, especially in G1, you do see it going up already. It's definitely one of those picks you want to keep in your back pocket to keep in mind. It's like, hey, the enemy can be Rika right now. I want to place that Rika in, so I'm going to put that on 75 for that reason. Let's look about Charlotte. Charlotte is mostly used if you have some kind of weird ass team you want to push up. Oh, it actually has 1.5% pick rate, but 52 win rate. More of a late pick. G3, it goes a little bit down. Okay, I would say it's one of those last picks. Can be good here and there if you put the good runes to it, so... Yeah, I think 75 is pretty much a last pick tier. Yeah, that's very true. It mostly ends up to have a tier, something like that. You're very correct on that, Linus. So yeah, last pick tier definitely fits. Then we can look at a Laura, which is definitely an interesting one, because if we go Laura in G3, it is super high in win rate. But if we go G1 and Punisher, it actually goes down in win rate. And that is just because Laura needs really good runes, really good artifacts. Plus, then you have a Laura that moves super fast. But if, let's say, your Laura is at 300 speed Vaio, and your next unit is like 270 Vaio, then there's a really big gap where a Heigang will cut you, other units will cut you, and that just makes it a lot worse to make it work for Laura. However, she is still very strong, but she's definitely not as strong as in G3. So I'm going to place Laura for that sake on a 90 rather than on a 95 as well. Then we go for Nikki, the unit that I recently pulled. Some people mentioned her when she got nerfed that she was pretty much gutted. The win rate in G3 used to be like 55 or some shit, but it's now 50.81. G1, it is a 52.50. Pick rate is pretty low, 2.5%. And then in Punisher, it's also pretty low on the pick rate with a 51%. So I do think, once again, that she's very depending on putting good runes, good artifacts to her. Will I place her on 85, though? Because this win rates, the pick rates are kind of low. The win rate in G1 is pretty decent, but the pick rate is pretty low. So I think I'm going to place it on 80 for that reason. I do think in G3 it goes up. Even though that the win rate goes down, I do think that a G3 Nikki would probably play better. And that is just the main reason that, yeah, a little bit higher pick rates, a little bit more difficult matches, but she does need pretty good runes to make it work. So I think I'm going to place her at 80, but would I still place her at 85? Well, the thing is, all of these units are super spammable, good win rates. Now, I feel like she fits better at 80, but if I make an in-betweener tier, she would be the first to go 82.5. So that would definitely be a thing for that one right there. Or are we just going to do that right away already? Yep, we're going to make the in-betweener tier. First in-betweener tier. If I say I'm going to do that in the future, why not do it right away? And Nikki gets the in-betweener tier. That is just the main reason these units have a lot higher pick rate. And that's the main thing, that this slightly is worse. It's more of a 5th pick, whereas these are like super early picks. Moving on next to Iraqi, which is not used that much. And I do think for pretty decent reasons. And one of those decent reasons being that it's just too hard. You try to kill something like a Julian, but you probably don't. Where is this unit? It's right over there. Yeah, it's below 1% or 1.5%. Yeah, it's just below 1.5%. Win rates are also not really that great. It is used here and there, but I feel like as a late pick, you can give it a try, but it's not really that great. I'll place it in. Ethna, I'm very curious to see Ethna in lower ranks, because in higher ranks, like the higher rank you have, sure, the higher the HP of the enemy is, so the harder it is to actually hit the threshold of doing 50%. But then you also get better runes and artifacts to actually make that work. So Ethna actually has, throughout all 3 ranks that we see over here, pretty much the same win rate, which is a little bit below 49, which is interesting to see. So pick rate is about 18. That is about equal on all 3 ranks, right? Yeah, it's a little bit more in G3. So I'm going to put it on 85. I don't think it is necessarily a 90, because she is that hard to rune. I think for G3 one, maybe it goes to 90, or I think then for G3, I would make an in-betweener tier and put her in there because of like the better rune quality out there. But yeah, well, I would even say like a G3, it's still hard to rune her. Like G3 top 50, that is where she becomes really good. And until then, she's just okay-ish good. So I think 85 for all tiers probably is pretty fair. Moving on next to Hey, Asima. Mostly is around the same tier in G3 as Erika, but let's see in other ranks. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Asima does do a little bit better in other ranks, and it's just mainly based on cleaves. So with a cleave, you can make it work, but Asima pick rate is a little bit low, but I feel like it's kind of, we're gonna place it in the last pick tier, which is pretty much right over there. Kraka. I feel like Kraka, if they ever buff her rates to have more consistent strips, she would be pretty busted. Except that she doesn't really have skill 3. She's about 1.5% pick rate, 49 on the win rate. So I'm gonna give her 70. I think she's not that bad, but she is kind of bad. Moving on next to Antares. You don't see too much Antares right now. I'm not entirely sure which one kicked Antares out of a meta, but you don't see... Yeah, G3 Antares pick rate is 1%, and even on a low win rate. And G1, pretty much the same thing. Who actually kicked out Antares? I don't know. Like, Antares right now is, my best is 70. Like, it's the last pick, but it's not really doing that great. What about Beth? Oh, yeah, we did miss Beth. Did we not place Beth? Where's Beth? Wait, do I not have Beth in here? Maybe I didn't put Beth in here. Let's actually see if Beth has enough win rates. We can still check that out, even though the unit does actually have enough win rate for both of... Okay, for G3 it's kind of bad, but for G1 and Punisher, Beth is good enough. Good call, good call. So definitely a unit. It's mainly used for Layla team, true. But it is good enough to place in there. However, I don't have a Beth in here right now. So I'm going to be putting What is the most random unit that is for sure not going to be placed in, but I'm going to be placing as this is my path? It is a last tier. It is a last pick thingy as well. It's just a last pick. Can do pretty good in last pick, but just have to keep in mind that quite a manly bath. It is a very manly blue looking bath. So let's move on. Then we go on to Chow. Ooh, the one unit I always love to hate on. Chow shit unit. Well, let's see how shit unit his win rates actually are. 47 in G3, a 47 in G1, and in Punisher also a, well, 48. Chow is definitely not bad. I do feel like Chow, like I'm always hating on Chow, but in the end, Chow does have his potential to solo shit here and there. I think he's just spammed a little bit too much. Fun thing is, Chow is better when he's banned than when he's let through in the match. Because if you let Chow through in the match, his win rate actually drops by 1%. And that is for all 3 ranks. Okay, I think Chow's overrated, 75. Fuck that unit. I might be biased on the Chow, but legit, fuck that unit, man. A lot of people ban him, whereas you could have just let Chow through and you would have still won. I feel like the Chow and Camilla are pretty much on the same level. I feel like that the Chow does not do any better than the Camilla or vice versa. Moving on to Leica. It is pretty good if you have a certain draft to draft both at the same time towards the end. But Leica, 47 win rate is pretty low as well. I drafted the Leica once against a Cigar, and Cigar armor broke it with the skill 2 and then did a skill 3, and then none of that actually made Leica counter, and then Leica died. It's one of those units you expect to do very well, but doesn't really do too well. I'm gonna put Leica at 70. No, even 65. I feel like that's... Leica's one of those units, if it doesn't counter all the time, it's really horrible. So it's just gonna be bad. Leo, though. Let's look at a Leo. I am curious to see about Leo. Leo is 48 in G3, is 48 in G1, and in Punisher, 49. And that is with the ban. So it's also... Leo's, if you leave it in the match, has a little bit lower win rate than if it is banned. Leo in general is just still very strong. I think that's about there. Would I place it 1 up? No, I think because it's more of a late pick rather than a super spammable pick, depending on what you draft. I think that Leo gets an 82.5 for that reason. No, Jara 60. The win rate of Jara is really horribly low. Do I feel that that is fair for Leo, or do I 1 down? No, I'm actually gonna 1 down the Leo because it is a decent amount of use. I'm actually surprised about the high pick rate on Chow. Like, how the hell is Chow 25% pick rate? Okay, maybe the pick rate is pretty high. We're gonna put it 82.5. Leica. Let's look at a Leica. Or not a Leica. Jaeger. I feel like Jaeger, if he was more consistent with its threat state, he would be a pretty good unit. 50 win rate in G3, 49 in G1, 51 in Punisher. Okay. Not too bad. I feel that Jaeger is better than Leica at the moment. You do need its armor break setup for him, but in a bruiser fight, if you put it next to like annoying units like a Ragdoll, an Angela, a Nana, blah, 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 that kind of shit, I think a Jaeger could do pretty interesting well, but he does need the pairing of all of those. But then look at his brother that has always been better than him, Mr. Ragdoll. Ragdoll, Punisher rank, 53 win rate, G1, 51 win rates, G3, 51 win rate. Well, that goes straight to 95 for me. It's just an incredible good unit. It is used a lot more in G1 than the other ranks, so I think he's a little bit more spammed over there, so maybe therefore also performs a little bit worse. But in general, it's just such a strong unit. Plus, in the 4v4, it's actually doing better in all 3 ranks. So that does show that if you leave the Ragdoll in, he's actually performing better than if you just ban him out. Actually, I didn't check that for Gianna. I'm curious to see that about Gianna. If you leave it in... Yeah, if you leave it in, it's winning more than banning it. Okay, fair. Makes sense. Everyone and their mom is Ragdoll G1. It's also one of the oldest units out there, so yep. This is a P3/G1 tier list, and Laura is a little bit harder to rune. In G3, she's absolutely 95, but in P3/G1, I think I give her a 90, because she is hard to make it work. Plus, you need your whole team to be good, whereas Ragdoll kind of does his own shit. You don't need the whole team to do very good. Whereas Laura kind of asks you to also have good rune depth on multiple units, which makes it a little bit harder to use. Let's see next. We're going in some Mankey business. Starting off with a Jihao, one of the units that has been getting the most amount of buffs throughout. 48 win rate. Oh, Jesus, G3, 45 win rate. That is really low. But in Guardian 1 and Punisher, it is a little bit higher win rate. I don't think he shines that much, even though his last buff, but I'll give him a 70. I think he can be okay, but he's not that great. Fire Monkey, though, unit that I feel is incredibly strong. Doesn't have the highest of performance for everything out there. G3 48, Guardian 150, and Punisher 50, even higher than that. And that is probably because Monkey is relatively easy to rune. He gets a lot of speed from his passive, he gets a lot of attack from his passive, you only need 100 crit rate, crit damage in there. So I do think that this unit is incredibly strong. Let's see if he does better in the 4v4 or not. It's about same-ish. I think I'll place him over here with Leo. I think that is a fair. But yeah, Fire Monkey is really, really darn strong. But you have to get some good runes to him to actually make him shine. But the main thing is 100 crit rate. I think that's what people are lacking on, that you shouldn't be lacking on, 100 crit rate. Wind Monkey, though. Very RNG unit. 48 win rate in G3. G1, 48.5. Punisher, about 50, so it goes a little bit up. It is a decent-ish counter against a lot of stunning things. So let's say you're playing against Sibala, Dark Robo, Sierra. You could maybe lock in a Wind Monkey and potentially do some stuff, but kind of a fifth pick that I don't feel is working that much. But he could be annoying. It's mainly like an RNG unit that if he were to stun a lot, he's insanely good. If he doesn't stun at all, he's not worth anything. Light Monkey, the Chitian, the Shun. You know, we don't see too much anymore. I think Lucia kind of made sure of that because of the pushbacks. 50 win rate in G3. G1, 52.77. It is an easy to rune unit, so I definitely do think that people should still have him. 52.50 on Punisher. He is definitely a late pick, last pick kind of thing. I think he does very good as last pick. It is probably a must ban, otherwise you lose kind of last pick. Yup. Yeah, in pretty much all quadrants. The only big issue he has, he doesn't fit in a lot of matches. But in the match where he does fit and if he's not banned, he's gonna win your shit. So Light Monkey is still pretty good. If I were to make an in-betweener tier, he would be the first one to move up. That is definitely a true statement on that one. Dark Monkey, Song Sheng Lao, recently buffed. But win rate from what I've previously seen wasn't super high. But let's see. Where that Monkey at? Monkey right over there. Monkey win rate is 48.5. G3 is 51, that's just a babo. And then Punisher is also 50.5. So he does okay-ish, but he's not really crazy good or anything. I think, because I feel like I'm placing him in the 75 as well, but therefore you don't fit in the 75 at all. I think I'm just going to put you at 80. I feel like you're fair at 80 because your win rate is just incredibly high. But you on 75, I think is fair. No, I didn't place any of the robos yet, but I have the robos lined up for later. Well, how many matches are played for the Dark Monkey in G3? 600 matches. How many of those would be Obawa's matches? 150-ish. So yeah, he has like 1/4 of the matches in Dark Monkey. So that's definitely where you can boost a unit by yourself pretty well. So let's move on. We actually move on to the Chandra, which is incredibly strong. I think it is easy to rune as well throughout all things because you can just go crit damage 4 on it. You don't need any crit rate on it, and it already would do a lot of damage. 50.60 or 50.36 win rate in G3, just about or just below 50 in G1. Punisher a little bit above 50, but pick rates throughout. Oh, that's actually with the 4v4, but stays about the same-ish. But pick rates number 3 in G1 and number 2 in Punisher, and in Guardian it is actually dropping a bit down. So I do think that a lot of people high value the Chandra. I think Chandra goes like a 90 for me. I don't think he is the same level as a Valakyrja though, because Valakyrja does have a higher win rate, even though the Chandra is picked a little bit more. But Chandra did feel that last nerf on getting less stunts. Without that, he would have for sure been a 95, but I do think that Chandra is still worth a 90. Moving on next with some Sky Dancers. I do think Yeon Hong would do better in G3 than in lower ranks, because Yeon Hong is very hard to rune. Plus, you need good artifacts to make it a lot of damage on it. Vela proc on, or Vela Vio proc is a lot scarier than Chandra. Absolutely, 1000% true. But yeah, G3 for Yeon Hong is 51, Guardian 1 is 50, and in here it goes down even a little bit more. So I would say that Yeon Hong probably fits 85. Whereas I would say a G3, Yeon Hong would probably be, I would say a 92.5. But for P3/G1, I think she fits like a 85 more, because she's just incredibly hard to rune. And I do think that people in this rank maybe misplay it a little bit more often, that they instantly go for the S2, which is the risk play. It doesn't strip, and then they instantly lose. So I think there's more matches of those out there in these ranks, whereas in G3, most of the times they go for the safe play, instantly boost up like a Robo or whatever, make it work. Plus, their strongest comp right now is pretty much that Robo, Sierra, Zibala kind of comp, which already asks you to have 2 very fast sets rather than 1 fast set. And because of the difficulties of also ruining the team around her, Yeon Hong gets an 85 from me, whereas she would probably be higher, or she would like definitely be, I would make it like a in between a tier on the 92.5, because I feel like she is stronger than a Chandra in G3. Moving on next, Wooyoung, cleaving. So we do see a lot more cleaving in P3/G1. G3, 46.66, not that high. G1, 48.5, definitely a bit higher. And then the Punisher, also a bit higher. So once again, one of those cleave units, if you build your whole cleave around it, can be pretty strong. If you have all of those runes around it, can be pretty strong. But you need to have all of those things very much lined up to make it actually good. Without that, it's not as great. So she's the only one in the last pick tier that is a first pick kind of thing. But then, it's hard to say. What are the best pairs with Gianna? Best pairs with Gianna are actually things that kind of boost her up. So either like Sibala, Twins Angel, those kind of things. Let's move on to a Wusa. Pioneers. I think Wusa is one of those units that never really left meta, but also never was really that meta until, like, except for the one time that his S2 did way too much damage. 49 win rate on G3, Guardian 1, 50, Punisher, 50.5. Very understandable. Wusa is also easy to build. It's just HP and then there's speed. Simple as that. I think it's a pretty strong unit. It's gets an 80 for me. You place it higher than 80. No, I don't think it's used that much. I would say Wusa with a Ragdoll, like those kind of pairs of styles, is just very freaking strong. How should I rune Kofachi via Will that or Swift? Kind of depends how fast you want to, or your other units to move after. That's the main thing. But you do see a lot of Kofachis on Swift, which I personally like as well. Isn't it the last pick? No, Wusa can be picked earlier. Like if you play the Ragdoll Gapso kind of style, Wusa is very strong in that and you can pick it a lot earlier. So I would say that it would be 80. Let's move on to Chiu. Which units am I going through? Any unit that's above 1.5% pick rate. Chiu is 48, 44 win rate on G3, 44 point high, 48 on G1, Punisher also 48. Not really a great unit. Can be used in cleave kind of setups here and there, but it doesn't really work out that well, it seems. And I don't really like the unit as much myself as well. It's kind of one of those units, it has too much Heigang issues. That's just the main thing. Like, yeah, Heigang issues. And then after that, being an inconsistent issue. Let's look about Wunsa. Wunsa in Punisher has actually pretty high win rate. G3, it is about a 50.5. Guardian 1, 51.5. Punisher, 51.5. And I do think that is due to Wunsa. Sure, you need a lot of speed on it. But after the speed, you don't really need too much other stats to make him work as well. So I do think that he becomes pretty strong because of that. He is not spammed in insane amounts. Do I want to put him one up? Wait, let me... Jan Hong was around 50-ish, right? Yeah. I think I'm actually going to put him on 85, and that is because he has such a strong pair with Ziara, Sibala, Wunsa, which is very meta right now. Sure, you do need multiple good Swift sets for it to make it work, but it is such of a meta thing which is enabled by having that Wunsa that I do value Wunsa a little bit higher. Because it's just a 1 LD unit that enables a whole comp. Without that LD unit, it pretty much does nothing. So I think that Wunsa, for that reason, in current meta, is actually pretty high on value, and I'm gonna give him 85 for that reason. Nigong, I would be highly surprised if Nigong was ever used. Nah, 0.38. Yep, nope, not used that much. Tessarion, I actually recently saw that Tessarion in G3 had a high win rate, so curious to see what he would do in other ranks. I can kind of see it with his most recent buff where he can prolong Oblivion, but in Punisher he has 45.70 win rate. I do think in Punisher it's often like, oh, I play against Ragdoll and a lot of passes. I'm gonna place it in and see how it works. But if you don't actually put good runes to him, he's going to be really freaking bad. And Guardian 1 shows the same thing. G3 is about 50 right now. So, yeah, it's just, he has the issue where he's fighting very strong passives all the time, where he's just not doing enough. So, I'm gonna give him 70, but if you put very good runes to him, I can see him work. Elsharian, let's see if that is actually used. It's more of a fun unit that people tend to toy around with, but you do see it from time to time with Tablos and stuff. 44 win rate in G3, that is really low. 48 in G1, Punisher also 48. It is about 1.5% pick rate, so I'm gonna place it in, but I feel like he's just a 65 for me. It's not that great. Isn't Elsharian literally Obabo? I think Obabo didn't play that much matches to be 881 matches by himself, but if so, he lost more with it than he won. Because this thing is 44 win rate. That is really horribly low. Veromos, however, very strong counter pick against a whole bunch of meta things because there's a lot of debuffs out there. Guardian 3, close to 50 win rates. Guardian 1, 49 win rate. Punisher, about 50 win rate. Very strong late pick, but I feel like he's stronger than most of the late picks out there. It's one of those things that if you don't ban it, you're probably going to lose against it for a lot of the case. And actually goes down in win rate if he is not banned. Interesting. Thought I expected that to go up, but I would say Veromos is definitely one of those units you want to have runed up. Tiana. Definitely a unit that I do expect in lower ranks to be more dominant. In G3's 45 win rate. That is not dominant at all. Guardian 1 is 50.88. Punisher is 51.82. Interesting. So I think if you it's one of those cleave units. This is pretty much the tier of like cleave units. If you have the right cleaves for it, it does work. Also, if you place it against the Heigang, it's not a bad Heigang counter, but you do have to have like very strong follow-ups on the Tiana to make it work. Mainly like a Neftis or something would make it work, but then again, you need the Neftis. But yeah, I think for it is not bad to have it ruined up in the back pocket. Like, oh, I'm playing Heigang, I have like good CC afterwards. It's not that bad. Triton, we didn't get to Triton yet, and for Rat, it was way too low pick rate, so don't have to place that in. Let's check a Light Polar Queen. Light Polar Queen, I think is easy to use, and I think Light Polar Queen is incredibly strong with the Leia Heigang team, but I don't see too many people actually use that when they have those. But G3 has a 52 win rate, Guardian is about 50, Punisher is also about 50, well 50.5, but I do think that it is a very strong late pick. Late pick tier, 75. A lot of them late picks. Gretzel Nikki, thank you. Lydia, well, that's not used for sure. Frigate, I don't expect to be used. There was a little bit of a hype around it when it was just buffed, but you don't see it being used too much now. It's just 1% pick rate or below that, so not really gonna value that. Tetra, however, you see a little bit less Tetras because a lot of the Tetra potential picks are now Veromoses. But a Tetra can still be pretty good. Wait, Nikki? Yeah, I made a video on it. I pulled a Nikki yesterday. But Tetra, 45 win rate in G3. G1, 48. Punisher, also about 48. strong late pick, but I would feel that the Varomos does do it a little bit better in most cases. So I'm going to give it about a 70. Then we're going to go on to some Sea Emperors. But we first start off with a Poseidon. Poseidon is probably not picked that much. No, pick rate is below 0.5%, so it's not going to be in. Let's move right away to Triton. Triton in G3 is 47 win rate, not too bad. 50 in G1, even 50 high, and then 50 high in Punisher. Okay, I think it's like 100% a late pick as well. Do I really like him as a late pick? I think he's really good against the specific drafts that you do have, or something like that. Sean B and C, I have to do some explanation. Oh man, yeah, baby. But yeah, Triton for me is just about a 70. Win rate is okay-ish, but it's mainly just a super late pick, and I feel like it's slightly worse than the late picks over there because it does actually need like the good runes for a late pick, or at least fast enough runes for a late pick where he's mostly not really used or worth those fast runes. So yeah, there's that. Okeanos, we have seen a bunch of Okeanos in SWC, mainly in Asia. I would say mainly in China even. Win rate is 50.5 on G3, 51 and a little bit on G1, and Punisher a little bit lower. So it does show that a little bit of artifacts does value it, but I feel like if you really put your best runes to an Okeanos, he probably performs like a 75, maybe an 80. But for most people, it's not like, oh, I see Okeanos has high win rate, I slap on like a few random runes and I'm gonna make him work. No, then he's gonna be 70 by best. So if you want to make him work, if you put actual good runes to him and shit, I would say that he's probably 75. But for now, I'm gonna give him a 70. Now we move on to Pantas. With the Pantas luck, let's see what the Pantas luck does for his win rate. Pantas luck in G3 is 49, G1 is 51, and Punisher is also 51. Good last pick. Guess where all the last picks go? 75! I think he's just like a good last pick, but I wouldn't really spam him all too much. Where Bananaman? He's not in the list, and I'm barely sure that he wouldn't be picked enough. But I can give that a quick peek for you if you so want that. Bananaman, yeah, 0.5% pick rate, 0.5% pick rate, and 0.5% pick rate. Don't have to place it in. We do have another unit that is maybe a little bit more interesting. The Bay. Wait, I actually do want to check. I also saw Molly. Is Molly actually still played? 19 picks in G3. Okay, Molly is definitely not a unit we see anymore. Interesting. But the Bay. Very underrated unit. Unit I always love to meme on. Is like, oh, imagine you pull the Bay and you quit the game. That is what I said with the Bay. But now it is a 48 win rate in G3. But Guardian 1, it is a 51.5. On a 1.2% pick rate, and Punisher, it's even 52.77. 1% pick rate, definitely not high pick rates, but I do feel like that he is a little bit of an underrated unit where he could be a pretty strong last pick as a bruiser fight, because in the end, you know Carlos, right? He's like Carlos, but then AoE, so it's definitely not that bad. Let's move on to some Desert Queens. I mean, Desert Queens, same shit, different day. Bastet. G3, too low pick rates. G1, about 1%. Punisher, also about 1%. Win rates are low or like higher in lower ranks, but for me, Bastet is like, it's kind of in the cleave-ish tier. If you want to cleave with it, it's not really the best of cleave units out there even right now, but if you want to cleave with something, no, I'm actually going to one down it. Bastet is not that great. Adriana's just doing way too good for that most of the time. But let's move on next to a Sekhmet, also known as Suckmet, also known as I tried to draft it in when I'm losing, Matt. Wow, she's in the match in G3. She's a 45% win rate. That is really low. 46 in G1. And then in Punisher, if she's in the match, is a 46 as well. That is horrendously low. She does have a decent amount of pick rate, but she just has the big issue is like, oh yeah, if you miss right now, I instantly lose the match. So, yeah. It's just if she resists one thing, it's just like, yep, nope. If she resists, I instantly lose. So, I give her a 75. It's just a low win rate. She does have a decent pick rate, but she's just a low-ass win rate. That doesn't really work out for it. Hathor, please be below 1% pick rate because I do not want to place this unit in, but I am semi-curious to see if it is. I do think that Lucia and also units like Masha and all of those things just made sure that the pick rate of a Hathor is below 0.25%, which I love to see. Then next one, Isis. Let's see if Isis is actually picked. In the end, Isis in lower ranks is relatively easy to rune. G3, it's about 50 win rate, but in G1, it's a 52. Very low pick rate though. Punisher, it's a little bit lower. I feel like Isis is, in the right moment placed, probably a must ban. Does she actually work better in the match or outside of the match? In Punisher, her win rate goes down by 3%. Okay, she's more fearing in the match than outside of the match by a long shot, except for G3. Interesting. Fairly interesting. I feel like she has some value, but a 70 value. It's not much value. Sister, however, let's see. I'm curious to see if Nefty's win rate goes up a lot according to lower ranks. What is this shit, Nick? Yeah, see, intonation. If I pulled a ragdoll, I would have had to do your RTAs, but now I don't. So, okay, Nefty's 50 win rate. Let's see if that goes up. No, actually, it doesn't really go up in lower ranks. I'm surprised about that. I expected, like, Nefty's to be 50 win rate in G3, 51, and then 52 in Punisher and Guardian, but she's actually kind of falling down in all ranks, which is pretty interesting to see. That is actually fairly interesting. So, she's a little bit hard to place for me because I feel like she is an okay to good unit. She pairs pretty decent with like the Wunsa Sierra kind of drafting style, but she does have the issue where you're pretty much forced to use a Hey Gang next to it, but then a lot of the drafts are locking you out where you don't really have that strong of a draft, because if you have a Nefty's, you need 2 AoE strippers next to it. But if you have those 2 AoE strippers next to it, you are probably fighting a Hey Gang, or you have to ban it, or you're gonna get outsped, or both. So she's just a little bit hard to draft right now, where she does fall off a little bit more, because in the end, she has a win rate that is pretty much equal to a Sierra with half of the picks of a Sierra, more or less. But then again, if we compare that to a Yeon Hong, it is about the same-ish pick rates. Yeah, okay. It wouldn't be fair to put Yeon Hong higher than that if I put this one on 50 on 8. No, I think that this is probably... I think I would even one down Yeon Hong. I think that is fair, because it is still pretty hard. Is Nefty's Tiana still played? Not as much. Not as much, because it's just so easy to outspeed. You have a lot of good outspeeders right now with Athna and those kind of things. So I'm gonna one down Yeon Hong, but I think Nefty's is still pretty strong for this. It's just harder to spam pick it. I think that is the main thing, but it is still a very good unit. So I think 85 is fair for Nefty's. Moving on next to some Wadjets and Anduets. Let's start off with this one over here. Anduets. Okay, super low pick rate, Never mind. Wadjet. I think Wadjet is still used a decent amount. Let's see. Oh, right over there. That's actually a good amount of pick rate. I think Wadjet is very easy to rune as well, because it's just speed, a little bit of tankiness, a little bit of accuracy, you're done. 46 in G3, makes sense. G1, it's actually 50, not surprised. And Punisher, it's even more than 50, 50.74. So, not surprised that he does a lot better. So, I would say in G3, it's really a weak unit. In G3, I would probably give it like a 75 by best. But for this, I would probably give it like an 80-ish. Yeah, I think I'll give it an 80. I think it's not a bad unit. It is also a good pair with Valajul. Like, the Valajul made the Wadjet a little bit comeback in the meta, because defense buff on Valajul with a crit rate Valajul just does a lot of damage. But it is one of those units that you mostly have to draft semi-early, and then it's not really the best speed lead in slot and that kind of thing, so that's just sometimes makes things a little bit more difficult. Daphnes, the coin flip unit of the ages. 47 win rate in G3, G1 46. If he's in the match, actually performs worse than outside of the match. Is a 45 win rate unit throughout. I think he is... He does have some fear of doing shit, but most of the times doesn't do shit. Because even if he's in the match, like let's say you have a Federica. Federica's gonna one-shot if it does enough damage. This thing is like, it could miss the strip, was miss the armor break, and then it could not do enough damage. Yeah, 65 for me, bro. That's that is enough. I heard enough inconsistencies. Jara's lonely. True. Do we fit him Jara level? No, I feel like he gets, because he has some like high band value. So Jara's still lonely. Sorry, Jara. Let's move on next to a Samath or Pisama or whatever you want to call it. 45 win rate in G3. That is pretty darn low. 47 in Guardian 1. Punisher is 47. So, well, not too high for this 33 lead right there. I feel that it is kind of a late pick mostly as well. But even for a late pick not doing that well, you're just gonna get a 70. And we got a raid from ACOG. And I saw that you pulled a Gianna. Congrats, man. When are you at the Countess dinner for all of the employees? Oh, wait. I'm not allowed to say that, alright, am I? It's just funny by now, man. It's just fucking funny. Okay, so we go to Ganymede. It's definitely not used that much. If he's used, yes, like very spread out win rates, though. Yeah, it's just not used enough. Oberon, though, is nerfed. Well, it's not necessarily nerfed. Well, it's nerfed through Shizuka being nerfed. That is the main thing that we could give Oberon. But it is a pretty decent unit by itself. It's good next to the Sibalas and stuff still. So 51.5 win rate on G3, 3% pick rate. 51 in, yeah, okay, that's definitely not bad. It is definitely a late pick, but I would fare it as a... Well, it's a late pick that needs a Sibala. That's kind of a thing. Well, there's no Sibala in this yet, but... Or Yeonhong. But it does kind of need something else to make it really shine. But it is a pretty darn strong unit out there right now. Do I feel like to put a few things higher than this is right now? Hard to say. Now, I actually do feel that Oberon is better than this. He's not picked that much, but his win rate is definitely pretty strong. So I feel like Oberon is an 80 for me. But he is still, like, he's only 80 if you have Sibala. Without Sibala, or if you spam Sibala, or use Sibala at least. Without Sibala, he's definitely 75. So that's kind of my in-between whatever. Why does Megami only have 28 lead? Yeah, he's in the 4-star family, that's the reason. Nyx, that's the, I don't even have to check that, that's for sure not used. Molong. Or Viva, Viva could work as well, yeah. Or just a Leo counter. If you don't have neither of all of those, I would use it as a Leo counter. Let's move on next to a Molong. Molong is 51 win rate in Punisher, 50.5 in Guardian 1, a little bit below 50 in Guardian 3. Molong is just very consistent with the amount of damage he does, so for that reason, it's definitely not a bad unit, but I would say, is he a spammable unit? Not really, though. I would give Molong a 75, but I think if you're fighting a lot of those ragdolls and gopsos and those kind of things and you struggle with it, Molong might be an answer for you that you might be looking at that might actually work for you to rune up. It's definitely not a bad unit to have as a pocket pick out there. But I maybe value him in 1-up. Nah, let's actually make the in-between the two. I'm doubting too much with a few units right now. So we're gonna make the in-between the tier. Oh wait, that's not how it works. And I feel like you are in between the tier and you are in between the tier. Any of those units feel like a in between the tier? No. No, I feel like that's fine. Just what Jet and Sylvia lead. Yeah, but Jet and Sylvia are the only inconsistent leads between all of the semi-consistent weird-ass leads. But yeah, that's true. Those two don't make any sense for their respective leads. Did we miss Berg? Wait, what Berg? Berghild? That unit is... The Bay 75 Cobium? The Bay is actually low-key good. Or actually, not that bad. It's not really good, but not that bad, for sure. Fang Yang. I definitely do think he performs better in lower ranks. 46 in G3, 49 Guardian 1, Punisher. Okay. A late pick. Late pick tier. 75 for Fang Yang. Don't nerf Sylvia. Sylvia's not going to be in RTA tier list anyways. Tian Lang. I'm very curious to see if Tian Lang does a lot better in lower ranks. So 51 win rate in G3. Pretty decent pick rate as well. It's not picked as much in lower ranks, because probably less people have them. But Tian Lang is doing well. Tian Lang is absolutely doing well. Do we put that over here? Yeah, that's more win rate than Nefties and stuff. So I definitely do think, would I place it one higher than this? That is a little bit the question. 51, 51, 51. Pick rates aren't super high. Let me compare that to, let's say, a Laura. I think that Laura was... Yeah, Laura's actually, if you look clearly at the win rates, pick rates, then Tian Lang would be higher than that. I do feel like that's Tian Lang should be on a 90. Yeah. I feel like it's unfair to put Tian Lang any lower. It is a late pick, but Tian Lang has probably such a high ban value and such a high value that you have to ban it, and otherwise you're pretty much screwed. That I feel like that Tian Lang has pretty high value for one of the most insane last picks, because there's just a lot of units that have some attack bar increase. Heigang is a very strong thing in meta, and he's probably one of the best counters into Heigang. So if Heigang is that much of a dominant unit, plus Ragdoll's that much of a dominant unit, having the strongest counter against those two units is definitely worth something. Plus, he's just trying to counter units that are incredibly strong by itself, and therefore probably lowers the win rate a little bit by itself. So I would say that Tian Lang is definitely worth a 90, even if his win rate doesn't necessarily represent that always. Let's move on. Mi Ying. Do we actually use that? Is it used enough? I don't think so. What's my other choice on the blessing? Nah, pretty low pick rates throughout. With how many things I hate to be up, you can pick it early. Kinda true. Helena, that is an interesting one that I'm curious to see. I feel like an Helena 5th pick is a pretty strong pick in general. And especially on low ranks, would do pretty fine. It's doing 53 win rate on Guardian 3. Pretty low pick rate. Higher pick rate on Guardian 1. Interesting to see that. Pretty good last pick in general. So I would say throughout the last picks, no, it's just a good last pick. 75. Buff Mi Ying non-buy. I feel like Mi Ying could use a buff, absolutely. I don't have the unit, but I still feel like it can get a buff. Diana, let's see about Diana. 49 win rate in G3, Guardian 1, 51.5. Very strong late pick, and about 51 in Punisher. So, very strong late pick, and I actually feel like Diana is stronger than the bunch over here. I feel like everyone should still keep a good Diana runed up. When should you use Helena? You want to use Helena when the enemy doesn't have full AoE CC and also doesn't have immunity after the first turn. There's not too many drafts that happen that, but if the enemy drafts, let's say, one AoE stripper and you ban that one AoE stripper and he's left with 0 AoE strippers, your whole team is immunity and your Helena starts moving after they all moved, that is why you want to use an Helena, and it's very good in that position. What I just explained is pretty much a guaranteed win for her. In most cases, depending what you're fighting. If it's not too much water, of course, but that is just where she becomes super strong. Now, moving on next, we still have a light and a dark pony. So light pony, I do expect to have pretty high win rate in lower ranks. Probably not used as much. It is pretty high win rate throughout all ranks. 52.5 in G3, Guardian, also 52.5, and then Punisher 53. Pick rates are a little bit low, but it's definitely a very strong unit. It is definitely a very strong unit. And we got a raider from Contours USA. Thank you guys very much for working on a P3-G1 RTA tier list at the moment. Would I place this thing any higher? I feel like the pick rate is too low to place it higher. It is a nice to niche-ish unit. I would say maybe for G3 I would place it higher, but since the pick rate is kind of low in here, I would say that we're not going to place it any higher than that. But it is a pretty annoying niche unit. It's really one of those units that has a lot of sack potential. It does need to sack to be actually good, but it has a lot of potential to start in with that sack. So, gonna throw it at an 80 for that one. Moving on next, Tablo. I do think Tablo in P ranks would do a little bit better. Yeah, not surprised that it is like 52 win rate. G3, 48.5. Guardian, 52 as well. And Punisher, also 52. So it's definitely one of those cleave units you have to build your whole team around. But if you have the good units for it, which is like the Water Siri, the Sonia, all of those kind of good things, it's actually not that bad of a unit. So it's kind of similar to you. If you build the right draft around these two units, they actually do perform pretty well for those ranks. So, yeah. Why is every streamer getting LD5 we riot? Because we summon scrolls. Or something like that. Oh wait, I missed the Dark Pony. Dark Pony, where are you at? Alexandra, not that much pick rate. Yeah, pick rate is below 1%. I think like it's a very strong last pick as well, but I'm gonna give it 70. I think it's a very strong last pick, similar to Helena actually. No, I'm just gonna put... No, I'm actually gonna put it on 75 for sure. I think people are sleeping on this unit, especially in low ranks, because you don't need crit rate on this thing. And it can already deal a lot of damage, so... Yeah, I would definitely say that this thing in P rank should be pretty strong. Just have to pick it at the right moment. Then Celia, ACOG's favorite unit, or not really. Let's see. I think it is probably never used, and for good reasons. It's not that great. 29% win rate. Okay, never mind. We're not gonna use that unit. It is terrible. It's like 0.5% pick rate and shit. However, Vivachel. Let's see about Vivachel. Guardian 3 Vivachel, 48 win rate. Guardian 1 Vivachel, 51.5 win rate. Punisher, 51 point something as well. So Vivachel is mainly paired with Ragdoll. You can, like if you have Ragdoll, I think Vivachel's 90. Easily 90. But not everyone has Vivachel. Or not everyone that has Vivachel has Ragdoll. So then I think it becomes 85 to kind of balance it out. It is still usable with Leo. But if you just have Vivachel and Leo, it's not as crazy good. I think if you have Vivachel Leo, it would be more of you playing Vivachel into the enemy Leo kind of style. She just needs Cassandra Shizuka, to be honest. With Leo, true, you can go for the Shizuka kind of drafts as well. That is true, but let's look at the win rates once again. No, win rates are just about like 51 each. They're not like crazy good. Very good Yan Hong rank. Yeah, she's just super hard to rune. That's the main thing. Like, this is the difficulty in runing kind of factor that is hard hitting her on the... Because for G3, she's up here easily. But yeah, I think Vivachel on 85 is probably fair. Is it though? If I look at these units... Yeah, I would still say, like, if you have Ragdoll, it goes up. If you don't have Ragdoll, it probably is 85 for me. Yeah, if Yanhong S2 was consistent, for G3 she would be up here. Like, if the Yanhong S2 was consistent, she would be up here, but... No, that's just not the thing. Vivachel, I'm still kind of doubting. Well, let me check the Han win rate, just as a reference. Han win rate... It's about similar. A little bit lower on pick rate. No, it's actually lower on the pick rate for that. Might I one down Han? Or one up you? You don't need runes for Viva. Yeah, that is the thing that I was just thinking about as well. Because you don't really need runes for Viva to make it work. Just need to be a little bit fast and then you're already kind of good to go. It does have a little bit higher value than the units over here. The 95 are units looking good together. True. Those four would be a strong team. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give Viva this. Is Laura that low? Yeah, for this rank, Laura is not crazy good. Because you need, not necessarily that Laura needs crazy runes and artifacts. You need a good team with good runes and good artifacts around Laura to pick up on just a speed buff. Whereas a lot of other units, they give some kind of speed increase, blah, blah. But now you have to gap 20 speed. And if you just, let's say you put your Laura on your fast set, which is 190. Your Laura is at 310. Your next unit is, let's say, a 180 set. Then it's at 280. You have to gap 30 speed. That is a lot. That is really a lot. So that just becomes very difficult to gap that whole speed. Okay, let's move on. Vivachel on that. I think it is fair because you don't need good runes to it, and it can enable a lot of other teams with like the Federica and blah blah blah. Yep. Josephine. Do people still use that? Well, you have Gianna being a lot more used, so I expect Josephine to be a bit more used as well. In G3, not really working out. 46. G1 50, Punisher also 50. Okay, is this unit used a lot in Punisher? I am thinking good last pick, but since the pick rate is pretty decent-ish, I don't know. Yeah, the shield is pretty annoying. Plus, you don't need too much stats on it. It is easy to rune, so last pick versus Gianna, Chandra, Heigang. Yeah, I can see this in this rank being pretty strong. Yeah, I think that she's easy to rune and she deals good with lesser rune quality as well. Yeah, I can see her work. 77.5. Let's move on. Ophelia's not used. Leona, which is probably one of the worst units out there in high ranks. But in lower ranks, maybe still, because she's mainly dealt with by artifact damage and stuff. Which is still showing... Oh, she has 58 win rate in Guardian 3, most insane unit in the game. Oh wait, that's like 0 pick rate. No, she's just not picked enough, so we don't have to look at it. Ernie, I don't really think that we see too much of that unit. It's more of like a niche-ish, weirdish unit if we do see it than anything. No, pick rates on that are super low. We don't even have to check. Moving on next, Abellio. We always do see a good amount of Abellio. Abellio is one of those units that hasn't been touched in buffs or nerfs in ages, but somehow does fit every meta to not be that bad. He's always around the same ranking, like 50 is win rate, a little bit above that, a little bit below that, and just always doing very good. And it's one of those must-haves if you want to speed contest, or if you want to, not necessarily speed contest, but if you want to go anti-cleave and that kind of stuff. So I value him similarly as a Valkyrja. Very strong late pick. You definitely want to have an Abellio. And if you put Abellio on damage, if he is hitting on an armor break somewhere late in the game, he can easily do like a good amount of damage as well. So Abellio gets some value from that. Belinus. More of a cleavy-ish unit as well. Somewhat of a Rika-ish kind of thing too, but a little bit worse. Pick rates are pretty much non-existing, so I'm not going to place it in. But I'm going to place it in, but I give it like... It is like a Rika, but worse. That's just kind of his best thing that he can do. He can armor break though, so he can set up a little bit for other units, but I don't know. I'm very curious to see about Valantis, the differences in win rate, because Valantis is hard to rune, but Valantis is also, I think, it just needs the speed. It doesn't really need damage, like sheer speed and accuracy, but it's actually doing better in lower ranks. Surprised about that. But it is just a late pick. I wouldn't be spamming Valantis at any given moment in time or anything. Valantis for me just gets a lower rank for being so hard to rune. Because you need a faster despair set than all of your other units on a unit that has a low base speed. If they were to up the base speed of Valantis, he would become very good. But yeah, it's just super hard to rune. Like that's just the main thing. Because this thing, if you want to rune this up, it drags down your whole team. And that just kind of makes it a little bit worse in the first place. So for that reason, I'm not the biggest fan of Valantis. But if you do have to rune that and you can make it work, Valantis is definitely a very strong unit in the match. That's absolutely, it could be a 5th pick. Valantis could absolutely be like a must ban. Let's see if he does better. Yeah, if he's in the match, he mostly does better than just being... He's often banned as well. So I'm going to give him 1 up for that. Because he's often like the must ban. And having just being the must ban is already pretty nice. But you do need him despair. If you put him swift, betting on the provoke is just too low of chances. It's mostly not going to happen. But yeah, it is pretty hard. Yeah, it's also like you invest very good runes to it, and then it is banned. It's also like, rough. Pader, let's see Pader. Pader is very good into Gianna, and Gianna is very meta, so I do assume Pader is doing very good as well. 51 win rate in G3, Guardian is 53, Punisher is also 53.5. Pick rates aren't super high, but if you're struggling with Heigangs and Giannas and those kind of things, Pader is probably the guy you gotta be looking at. And Pader is relatively easy to rune. Might you say like, yeah, but then I have to make Pader on Vio faster than my whole team? Just put him swift. Just put him swift, because in the end, a lot of units like a Valkyrja, you want your Valkyrja if it's stunned to proc out. Ah, guess what? The passive of Pader already solves that problem. You don't need Pader on Vio that much. He will do his shit even without Vio. So for that reason, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Pader. It's like, yeah, I don't really want to make a Pater that's faster than my whole team, which Pater actually kind of needs to cleanse the whole team, blah, blah, blah. Just put him Swift. Trust me, he's a very good unit. If you're facing a lot of Giannas, you have struggles with that, you want to use that Pater. It's absolutely really strong. Plus, if you put him Swift, the rune quality goes very low as well, so you don't even need crazy rune quality. However, these are all a lot more spammable units, so I'm gonna give him that. Guts will not agree with you. Well, Guts is a G3 player. That is different. For G3, I think I would lower him a little bit more, and he is a little bit more bound to be Vio. But I would give him 82.5. Yeah, 82.5. I'm not gonna put him like crazy high or anything. But it is a legit counter out there, for sure. I think it is the second best Gianna counter out there. The best would go to Zinezek, in my opinion. Well, maybe Heikang, then Zinezek, then Pater, but there is something to say about that. Then we move on with some Bolfric. Do we even see people still pick Bolfric? We did see a little bit of Bolfric picks when there was like a super hard Masha meta. Still 1.5% pick rates. Close to 50, 49.5, 49.5. Yeah, it's an okay-ish unit here and there. The enemy has a lot of buffs. But the big issue is, if you have a lot of buffs but you don't take any turns, you still die. So that's kind of the Bolfric issue right there. Bella, which is a unit that is actually one of the few reasons that I'm making a P3/G1 tier list right now. Currently, even in G3, it's not doing as crazy good anymore. Well, it's still like 52.5 win rate is not bad. Pick rate is kind of low. But this is really one of those units that shines a lot in G3 with very good runes, very good artifacts. Without that, doesn't do as well. So I still think it is a pretty strong unit. But she is pretty much a 75 in here for this. She becomes a, I would say, 82.5. Yeah, I would say 82.5 to 80. If you have very good runes, but without that, she really drops off to the point where you probably don't even want to rune her. She needs insanely good stuff. So I would give it a 75 in these ranks. Whereas a lot more people would be like, yeah, that sounds a lot more reasonable than you putting her high all the time. Well, that is because of the other of G3 runes. Mephisto. Back in Nana meta, we saw some Mephisto here and there. Currently, we don't. Don't have to put it in. That's nice. Let's look at... Wait, do I also have Light Demon in there? Where Light Demon at? I miss Lucifer. Well, let's first check Lucifer. Lucifer win rate in G3 is pretty much non-existing. Therefore, I never had to place it in. But Lucifer, you definitely do see a lot more in G1 and a lot more in Punisher. And does work pretty decent for it as well. What is going to be my Lucifer? Let's place you for the... Because I placed you once more for like missing one unit, which is Beth. Then we're going to place this one for Lucifer. Where's the Lucifer going to be placed at for me? I think it's still like a very specific comp that you have to do. But it can work pretty strong in those. But I'm going to give it a 75, I think. Because you really need your specific spam comp around it. Without it, it's not that crazy good. But if you have all of that runes, it can do a decent amount. So that is a Lucifer right there on 75. Beelzebub. Let's see where are you at. If you're at somewhere. Middle right. Is not a great unit throughout all ranks. Yeah. It's about 50 win rate or 49 win rate even more with like 1.5 pick rate. So it's trying to do its stuff, but it's not really doing that great. Most of the time you can probably lock in another unit that will probably do better. There are a few matches out there where he could do decent, but most of the matches he's not really going to be performing that crazy. He kind of always wants an armor break and then he can deal decent damage on his skill 1. But all of the units in here would deal nice damage on an armor break in the first place. Well, most of the units. Not the nicest, but you get the point. So, yeah, not the greatest of units out there. Moving on next to some Beast Riders. We do see a little bit of Barbara coming back into flavor because of Mr. Lest. Making popular in the China Cup. But let's see how much we do see of it actually. No, it's still below 1% pick rate. So we don't actually have to put that in. Marsh, however, we absolutely will have to place in. Man, this tier list is we still have to do a lot of stuff. Okay, this is probably the longest tier list I made because I'm checking like multiple ranks and stuff. Well, sucks to be me. G3, 49 win rate. Guardian, 50-ish. And then even goes up. Not surprised about that. I do think that Masha is relatively easy to rune as well. And it does show that her win rate goes up in higher ranks. The other way around. Win rate goes up in lower ranks. Is she an 85, however, though? No, I don't think she's spammed enough to be 85. So we're going to put her 82.5 for that reason. Moving on next, Savannah. I'm surprised that after Savannah getting the right awakening, it is still that bad in meta that people are not actually picking it up. Nope, simply not picked up. It's not a bad unit, but... Let's see on Narsha. Narsha is one of those units that needs insane rune quality and then becomes really good. But there's legit like 2 or 3 people out there that I feel like, okay, this is really good Narsha. All of the others are not doing that great. However, win rate isn't too bad on those, like 51, 50.5. So Narsha is not doing too bad, but it's also not crazy good. I think for this rank, it's probably just a 75 as well. It's kind of hard to fit it in. Well, you could argue that if you always pair it with an Adriana, then it becomes a little bit easier, but it's still very hard to rune. So I'm gonna give that a 75 for that reason. But it is definitely a solid unit if you do invest all of those good runes into it. You pair it with Julian and crack. Well, that's mainly because Julian is amazing. Next up, we go for the Dark Beast Rider. Any usage? 0.5%. No, not enough usage. Yeah, Lucifer is, this is a Lucifer and that is a Bath. Those are the 2 units that I was missing. Hey gang, the unit everyone loves to play against and play with. G3 is 48 win rate, it's not super high. Guardian 1, a little bit higher, close to 49. Punisher, even higher than that. Well, I think Hey-Gang, because Hey-Gang doesn't really need crazy rune quality, becomes super strong in these ranks. It's taking the most picked unit, and it's the number 3 most picked unit in this nonsense. Okay, Hey-Gang gets a 90 for me in this one. Yeah, Hey-Gang is just... since it's relatively easy to rune, you just need Despair and some speed, and then accuracy. That is about it. It's really not like an insane amount of things that you have to invest into him. And he has pretty decent base speed where he becomes good. In Guardian 1, he's even the 2nd most picked unit. He doesn't have, like, the thing is that's holding him back from, like, being 95 is that his win rate is not above 50. If his win rate was 50 or above, I would have probably put him 95, but since this, I put him on 90. But, it's, yeah, Hey-Gang is pretty insane for that sense. Joe Gunn, I'm pretty sure we don't have to look at. Let's actually stop wasting time at looking at units that are not interesting. 52 or even 53 win rate in G3. Interesting. Changpong is kind of pushed out of meta because of Lucia, Masha, Mei Wang, those kind of fire units. But as a late pick, it is still pretty good unit. So I think a last pick Changpong is still a thing that you should have runed up and that can be pretty strong. So for that reason, I'm gonna give that... Yeah, I'm still gonna give him an 80 for that reason. You don't use him as much, but if you just give him a late pick, decent-ish rune set where it's just a little bit slower than your AoE strippers, then it's totally fine. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect tuning as you did in the past, but Changpong is still definitely not bad. These are Mookwool. Wait, I forgot Hanwoo. Oh, wait, I don't have to forget Hanwoo because it's a shit unit. Oh, wait. Mookwool, well, also kind of shit unit-ish. It's just good with a Han. Without a Han, Mookwool is like a 0. With a Han, Mookwool is above a 0. Just that. More G3, 48 win rate. G1, also 48 win rates. Punisher, also 48 win rates. Okay. Moore's not doing too great, but also not too bad. I would say that... No, I actually feel like Moore's slightly drifting out of meta, where he's maybe okay-ish. Pick rate is a little bit high, but win rate is kind of showing bad. No, I'm still gonna give him the 1-up. But Moore is not as much in meta anymore. But still usable. Douglas. Been getting a numerous amount of buffs as well. But let's see how his win rate is faring amongst those. G3 52, Guardian 150, Punisher also 50. So it's a little bit more of a unit that doesn't always work as much. Well, last pick, tier 75. People are still using Despair, and then it's just Hagang food. Yeah, that's the thing where more becomes only usable. Like if you're Vio, I think Vio Swiftmore is probably over here. It's a lot more spammable. Despair is over here where it just becomes more of a last pick. I think that is kind of the difference between the mores. I think that is fair to say. But yeah, Douglas, just a 75 last pick. Can be a nice pick, a 75. It's not going to be crazy. Talisman. I did actually want to put Talisman in because I did see that Talisman does have a decent amount of play in Punisher. 52 win rate. 1% pick rate, 1.5% pick rate. G1, also 51 win rate. G3, is 50. Scribble's inting with that unit, but I think it's just a decent last pick. It's nothing crazy good, but decent last pick here and there. If you're nuking with things, it's not too bad. It's definitely not too bad. It does kind of want his armor break setup, though. That's the only thing. But he's not having that much pick rate with that at all. But his win rate is doing decent. Van Cliff. Curious to see about that unit, how he's doing for win rates right now, because Van Cliff has been buffed like a million times as well. 1.5 pick rate, so he definitely plays it in. 50-ish win rate. Yeah, still not a big Van Cliff fan. He can be okay on Swift. Like the most Van Cliffs that do pretty well are on Swift, but you need good Swift sets for it to make it work. But on a cleave with a good Swift set on it, I can see him working. But he's not always doing that great. Let's see how Ken does, also known as the Bayonetta thingy. Whatever it's called. Okay, not used in RTA, that's totally fine. Carnal. Carnal's not dark, Carnal is fire. Carnal win rates is about 51-ish throughout all ranks. Pick rates aren't crazy good. It is mainly a counter pick into Cigar, which I think has some decent value to it in the first place. So it is countering one of the most dominant units out there. But for me, Cardinal's always kind of a weird-ish pick. Like, do you actually want to fit him in? He mostly does want to have crit rate on him, some crit damage, and then hits on armor breaks, but it's definitely not a bad unit. So Cardinal gets that. Now we have the one that is the Cigar, which was actually one of the worst units in game for a little bit of time. So we do still have hope for our collab units because Cigar started off as one of the worst units in game as well. But it's currently pretty much throughout all ranks. G3, most picked unit. G1, most picked unit. Punisher, most picked unit. And is pretty close to 50 win rate in all of them. So yeah, that goes straight on 95 for me. Yep. I think we don't have to say much more about it. It's just so good into so many things. Cigar is the most contested unit in SWC as well, which I'm not surprised about. And in lower ranks, like sure, he's maybe not as much tanky, but you just need, it is a little bit low on the base speed. That's his only downside, but you just need him a fast Vio and you're just good to go. Craig does have a little bit of value for cleaves. About 50-ish to 51 win rates in the P ranks and G1 rank. Yeah, for me, I feel like I would value him lower than a Woolyong. I think he's okay-ish, but the big issue that he has is that his base speed is very low. Like, if he had decent base speed, he would absolutely be way up. But without that, it's not as crazy good. He does have decent damage himself on the S2, though. Pick rate is just a little bit low. No, I'm gonna put him over here with the other cleave units as well. I think he's okay. Just need to focus really good runes into him, like probably your best set into him to make him do okay. But yeah, that is that. Shizuka. We do still see Shizuka a decent amount. I do think in lower ranks she would do better because she doesn't need that much runes. Just 100 res and easy shit and then annoying. That's just kind of her thing. I think No, I think she's actually in lower ranks, she's pretty good. Because if you go Shizuka Federica in lower ranks, enemy doesn't have a cigar. Pretty annoying unit, so definitely could do a lot of work. So I think Shizuka in these ranks are like 85. I'm happy to see that in G3 she's not performing as well. Yeah, 85 is fair. She enables a bunch of units with lower rune requirements and that kind of stuff. Tomoe, I think Tomoe is pretty high ranked in lower ranks as well, mainly because of the Heigang Tomoe Layla kind of comp. Yep, she goes up in win rate if she goes from 50 or like 49 low to 49 high win rate. Because of that, I think she is only really good in the whole Tomoe Layla spam comp kind of stuff, which is decently, like if you play against someone that knows how to counter it, you're pretty much instantly going to lose. But otherwise, it is pretty darn strong. So I'm gonna put it at 82.5 for that reason. I think it is pretty nice, but she's only that good if you use the whole comp. Without it, it's a little bit less. When will they buff the collab units? Probably in like 4 weeks or so. Moving on next to Gyu, which is a pretty weird but mostly annoying unit. I could see it perform better in lower ranks. Yeah, actually goes up 1% win rate, like 48.5 win rate. But it is still, for me, more of a sacky unit than a really good unit. Like, if she Despair Stuns all the time, she's 85. If she never Despair Stuns, she's by best this. Yeah, I'm gonna give her 77.5. I think, like, if you're really low on speeds and you're fighting a lot of Olivers and Sibalas and those kind of things, Gyu might be that one unit that actually might give you a win on that. So I think it might be pretty strong. I'm playing Tomoe with Gianna. It's so much fun until someone drafts a lot of Junos into you, but can understand that. Seimei, most boring unit in game, but a very strong unit nevertheless. But she pretty much has no skills. And Punisher actually does very high on win rate. Not surprised in that. In G3 she actually falls down in win rate, but Guardian 1 and Punisher, 51.5 and 53 win rate. Those are definitely good win rates right there. It's not used as much, but she's just incredibly strong. Like in the right match, she's pretty much a must ban or she's gonna fuck you up really badly. Yeah, and that's exactly what we see with the bans over here. If you let her through and she's just gonna be healing all the time, incredibly strong. But there's fewer and fewer matches where she actually becomes very usable. But I think if she would be used a little bit more, would that be better or worse for her? I think it would be better. So I'm actually going to give her 52.5. Am I? No, I'm going to give her 80. But she is... No, 52.5. I think she's pretty annoying, especially in lower ranks where people don't always know how to deal with these things. I think it could be pretty annoying of a unit. Duman, talking about units that don't really need that much rune quality and just need to land its dumb shit. It's actually the same amount of win rate between all. Like, it's about 52 everywhere. I think she would go this as well. Duman is just really one of those units that is often the must ban. Like, her ban rate is incredibly high. But the moment she's in the match, her win rate does drop a bit in lower ranks. But yeah, that's just like, if she always lands her shit, you win. If not, you're gonna have a struggle of a fight and try later. That's the thing. Like, if she would always land, she would be straight up here. But her issue of not always landing, like, oh, maybe you already missed the karma or the strip of the karma, blah, blah, blah. You don't get the extra turn. Like, yeah, no, it's just fucked. Or you do get the extra turn, but you get a useless extra turn. Let's see if Suiki is still used. I wouldn't be surprised if Suiki is used a little bit in lower ranks to counter things like Ragdoll, but let's see. No, actually not that much. Kaki neither. Kinky, maybe? We do see a little bit of Kinky out there still here and there. Well, we see a decent amount of Kinky. 2.5% pick rate. 50-ish on the win rate. Is a little bit better in G1 and Punisher than in G3. And that is just a good last pick. 75. Good last picks. Onmyouji. Onmyouji. Let's see what Onmyouji does these days. Onmyouji is pretty low in G3, 48. G1 is 52.5. That's actually pretty high. Punisher, 51. So it's more of a cleave-ish kind of unit as well, I guess. But is it good enough for a 75? hard to say. The win rates are a little bit higher than... Yeah, I do actually think so. Like, especially with a bunch of, like, a lot of stuns out there in the game right now, I don't think that Onmyouji is that bad. So 75... Yeah, I think that's fair. It's also not super hard to rune, because you don't need the crit rate, you don't need the crit damage. It's hard to stun it, so yeah, you can see that 77.5. Next up, we have some Nanas. Nana, wouldn't be surprised if that actually does better in lower ranks as well. Close to 52 win rates. Ooh, Nana's actually doing very good in low ranks. Surprised about that. Is that a lot of ragdoll flavor that's kicking in over there, or what's the deal with that? Because that is a very high win rate, actually. Let's see if we select this by win rate. It's actually probably one of the higher ones with... Yes, one of the highest ones with, like, high pick rates in general. Interesting. Might be a lot of ragdoll abuses, though, yeah. Okay, in G1 it's a little bit lower down, but still decent. So I'm feeling... I think 85 is fine. If we look at that much win rate, it is a little bit of ragdoll spam. If you have ragdoll, it's probably here, but without it, it's maybe here. Now let's place it here then. 82.5 for ragdoll, or for Nana. Coco, I don't think Coco is used as much. Can be used here and there as like a counter to ragdolls and shit, but does it really perform according to what you like it to perform it as? Not really. Pick rate's pretty low, not used enough. Let's look at Kiki. Don't think that unit is used as much. Well, it's a good 5th pick, so we're probably, if we place it anywhere, we place it at the 5th pick tier. Pretty good win rate if it is picked, actually, but pick rates are just about like 1%, but win rate is about 54. That's pretty darn high. But I think she's definitely a unit I would keep runes as a potential good last pick. But then, yeah, the last pick tier. Moving on next, Miles. I do expect a lot from Miles in lower ranks. Well, Miles is a little bit hard counted by Chandra. 49 win rate in G3. Lower than that in G1. Slightly below 49. And then 49 in Punisher. Okay, so it's about the same every rank. Surprised about that. I felt like Miles was super easy to rune and therefore would do very good. Pick rates are pretty decent. But I think for that reason, we're going to put it 82.5. I feel like Miles is so easy to deal a lot of damage on in low ranks. What would you guys say? Like Miles, I'm feeling more 85 because he's just so easy to rune. Just the shield set and some Vio. Yeah, it's the slow from Chandra. Slow from Chandra's kind of pushing him out of meta. But he's so easy to rune besides that. Like sure, you're not gonna make him 100 rest. That's a little bit more difficult, but... Plus the extra stun rate that he has on his S2 right now. He is feeling a little bit of that stun rate issue with the high Hay Gang, though. Yeah, the Cigar counts him, the Hay Gang counts him, the Chandra counts him. Yeah, the core 3 units counter him all a little bit too much. Fair. We're gonna lower him one down to for that reason. 82.5. I feel like that's fair. Because the core units out there are all kind of counters to him. Also a good amount of Leos. Well, Leo lose for not that much, but... let's see, a Oliver. Ooh, good old Oliver. Oliver is 49 in Guardian 3, close to 50 in Guardian 1, a little bit higher, and Punisher also 49. Still a very strong unit, but not as crazy much as it used to be, but definitely an 85 worthy. Absolutely 85 worthy for that unit right there. Just a lot of pick rates, first pickable. Yep. Fair fitting 85. Moving on next, Daniel with the shoes. I don't think that unit is used that much, but if he is used somewhere, lower ranks would have more feeling for him because he's really easy to rune. Just need max accuracy and he deals damage. Not used that much at all. You don't really have to put him in, but I feel like a Daniel on a late pick can be pretty annoying, actually. Good last pick. Jackson. Let's see how good Jackson does. Does have the same stun potential right now as a Miles. is a good late pick as well, but is he good enough? Because by himself, he's kind of a passive totem. Win rates are pretty high. Pick rates are super low. So win rates are like 52.5, 53.5, but pick rates are like below, like around 0.5% to 1%, so it's definitely not that much. But I do think people can pick up more Jackson. Jackson is definitely an interesting unit. It's not necessarily like a lot of people feel like, oh, I have to pair Jackson with a Ragdoll and Verd and blah, blah, blah. No, you just have to pair Jackson next to one buffer on your side and some debuffer on their side. It's more of the pushbacks. You more want to counter pushbacks, that's true. It is true that you see a little bit less, more CP, blah, blah, that kind of stuff. That is true. So you do see a little bit less usage for it. Okay, let's put him on 70 for that. Robos. Oh, Fire Robo first. Man, this is going to be the longest tier list ever in history of the game. This one is not that much pick rate. It's below 1% on all of the quadrants. Win rates is okay-ish, but it's below 1% pick rate, so I don't have to place it in. We go Wind Robo. Wind Robo is used a lot, but let's see how much. Win rate in G3 is 50.5. Guardian 1, it is 49.5. Punish is 48.5. So it's definitely a unit. You do need another good Swift set on that unit, which makes him a little bit hard to rune in most cases. But I do think that it is pretty good. Fire Robo is so underrated in current RTA. I think he's okay, but it is just hard to rune because the Fire Robo you want another Despair set on, but where are you going to get another Despair set that's faster than your whole set? On a unit that's still kind of gimmicky-ish rather than insanely good. So I think, yeah, that's just hard. Do you want to put it on Fire? I wouldn't put Fire Robo on Fire. I would really put it on Despair because he gets a lot of S2 cycles. But yeah, this Robo, I'm going to put it on 80. Yep. Dark Robo, however, which is very much spammed together with the Sierra, Sibala, blah, 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 everything. Let's see. I do think it does better in G3. It's about the same in all three ranks. Surprised about that because Dark Robo does need good runes, good artifacts. In most cases, you always want to bring Vio on this unit rather than anything. But I think he is fairly strong if you draft like the Sierra, Dark Robo, Zibala kind of whole draft. You kind of have to go for the whole thing to make it strong. Without it, it is not as strong. But it is definitely a very strong unit out there. Is it strong enough to put it one up? No, I think because it is slightly difficult to maybe rune him good enough to where he works. But I think it's an overall strong unit. We go for a bunch of these. Riley's probably used. Somewhere should be looking at it. Should I not? It's not used that much anymore. Or I am being blind. Oh, it's top left. I was looking way too far down. Win rate's 47.5. Higher in G1, not surprised. Punisher also higher than that. So definitely a unit that shines more on lesser rune requirements matches. I give that an 80. I think it's not crazy good. It's mainly like Ragdoll kind of usage as well. Exactly. Ragdoll, Nana, those kind of spam units. Then Riley becomes more interesting. Without that, you're not really going to Riley next to a Sierra that much or something. Or next to a Dominic or anything like that. Ella. Let's see if Ella has enough usage to be interesting. Right over there. Pick rates are about decent-ish. There's 1%, like 1.5%. Win rates are actually not too bad as well. Wow. Surprised about that. I'll think it's really depending on what you pair her with. Could you pair her with just a Federica and be good? Because most of the pairs I see here are with like Julians or Hans or those kind of things to get a lot of single target damage in. But you could also technically do that with a Federica or like an Oberon or a lot of other nuke units out there. So I don't think it is too bad for those kind of senses as well. But if it's that great, I don't know. I'm just going to give it a... No, I actually do think it does have a decent amount of potential. It is that 80 potential. Nah, I'm just gonna place it over here. 77.5. Because you need like other good units to pair it with to become interesting enough. Yeah, there are a few people that are maining Ella in G3, but they have like the Han and that kind of stuff. Let's look at the Carlos. Carlos is one of those units that you feel like should be countering a Sonya, but then doesn't really counter Sonya in most cases because you lack speed and therefore you just full glance on Sonya and you don't kill it. 48 win rate on Guardian 1, Punisher also, yeah, it's just the last pick that mostly doesn't work. I think Carlos does work better in higher ranks because you do actually need a very good vampire set on Carlos to make him deal enough damage to kill. Because Carlos is one of those units, if you don't kill, it's not doing anything. Then Dominic. I think Dominic is very rune heavy as well. Guardian ranks, wait, Guardian 3 is actually 55 win rate. That's insane. I think it is kind of paired with like mostly the buffers like Kovaci, Nikki, those kind of things to make it do good. But let's see in low ranks, 49 win rates, Punisher, 49 win rate. Yeah, I think Carlos is, or Dominic is really one of those super hard to rune and therefore a little bit difficult to place in. But if you have the good runes for it, he would do okay, good. But otherwise, it's just 75. But the Carlo or Dominic in G3, I would probably place somewhere like 80 or 82.5 looking at this. Maximilian, which is a unit that in G3 is very much overrated, but in other ranks still does good. So in G3, it is actually one of the lowest win rate units for a G3 unit that has a decent amount of pick rate with close to like a little bit below 48. Guardian 1, it is 51.5. Punisher, it's 50.5. Pick rates aren't super high, but he needs really his whole spam comp, like it's mostly a first pick, you know what's coming, blah, 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 yada, yada, you know how it works. But I do think that in lower ranks, people can pull that off a little bit more. So I do think that I would give him a 82.5, but you need to have the whole comp around him to actually make him good. If you don't have a Wunsa, which is probably his best pair for his strips, because he always needs 2 AoE strips, you're working with a Lionel, and a Lionel is kind of garbage. So that is kind of the things that you're looking at. I think if you have Maximilian and Wunsa, it definitely goes one up. Otherwise, it is probably here. But Maximilian is pretty chill because you could just spam your matches and just do it that way. So that's kind of the thing. But I think also Maximilian is probably one of the most overrated units in game because people feel like, oh, I just draft Maximilian and everything dies. Well, you have a big issue that there's a lot of speed leads out there with high base speed units that are going to outspeed you while you have to lock in 2 AoE strips, 2 buffers, 2 boosters, like, or not buffers, but 2 boosters, 2 AoE strips, 2 speed leads, 2 damage dealers. There's just a lot that you have to lock in to make a Maximilian draft completely work. So that's... Plus, if you play against the Heigang, you're fucked. Against Ragdoll, you're fucked. Against the Tianlang, you're fucked. So there's just a lot of units that you're fucked. Speed lead 33 Athna, or the other way around, 33 Athna, with a speed lead Athna. Yeah, Des. Oh man, been talking too long. You're fucked. So yeah, just a lot of things. You're fucked. So that is just the main issue that you have on that unit. It is hard to draft it in. If you pull it off though, it is very strong. But until then, you're fucked. Abelios, you're fucked. Yeah. So yeah, if you make the whole comp and you have good LDs to pair it with, like for, mainly that Wunsa or the Tianlang itself, those are good pairs with it. Because the Tianlang at least makes you counter this and that. But without that, you're fucked. It makes your drafting very linear and easy by just spamming the same shit over and over. And if you win, you win. If you don't, you don't. So that's the thing where I think a lot of people like the unit for, and it's very flashy if you do win. Veronica works. If Veronica lands, which is a little bit harder right now, and enemy doesn't proc out, which wasn't a problem in the past, you're fucked. Minato. 46 on the win rate in G3, Guardian, 48, Punisher, 48. Guess what it is? A good last pick. It is that great of a last pick? No, it's a good last pick that you think is gonna do shit, and then Minato just dies to a Marsha skill too. Fuck Minato, I hate that unit, man. It's always when you play against it, it's like hitting everything through like whatever wrong element, blah blah, landing armor breaks and shit, and then you play, it's like, oh, I just died to a Marsha. What for? It's like, no, I got skill to crit it on. Shit unit. Ren. Good unit for outspeeding. Relatively easy to rune. Not used that much. But I think we put him in the good last pick. If you put a good speedy set on him, if you don't have that many speedy units, or not that many speedy runes in the first place, putting it on Ren still makes you outspeed a lot of your enemies. Let's see if people actually, for dear life, like to use a Shun. And if you do, probably you should stop with that. Yep, not used. Ritsu, even worse. Yep. That does have an okay-ish win rate, but no pick rate. Next on, units that are actually interesting. Amber. Where is Amber these days? Also not picked as much, it seems. Wait, I'm pretty sure I should be looking at her already. Pretty, oh yeah. Okay, decent win rate actually, across all of them. Hey, not too bad. Good last pick, I assume. I think it's mainly a good late pick with the Heigang Layla comp. That is the main thing. Like, it's a Layla Heigang Tomoe comp, and then she becomes very good. Without that, not that crazy. So, gonna give that a 75 for that reason. Moving on next with Sonya. I'm curious to see how well Sonya does in low ranks, because Sonya needs good runes to not get trapped, be fast enough, deal damage, one-shot, blah, blah, blah. 52 in G3. Guardian 1, it's 50.8, still not bad. Punisher, it actually goes down. So this is definitely where you do see that Hela comp. Yeah, I think Hela comp is probably, like, we kind of understand if we call it a Hela comp. Hela comp. The Hela comp. Sounds so weird. Okay, I think that's the point where people lose you again and have no clue what you're talking about. But Sonya. I think Sonya currently in G3 is absolutely 85, probably above 85. It's really a deadly comp that most of the time is a must ban. If you don't ban it, you just die to it. But since it is a bit difficult to rune, it does... Well, it's still good. I think this rank is still pretty fine for it. Maybe even still over here, actually. Like, 18 pick rate is pretty decent. It's definitely not too bad. No, I think I'm gonna put it 85. I think she would actually be, like, higher up in G3. Maybe even close to 90. Yeah, 85 for Sonya. I think it is a solid unit right there. Then we go to the Veronica, which people claim suck. But Veronica is one of those units, if she does land as she's supposed to, match is over. That's kind of the thing, like, yeah, she sucks because she didn't insta-win me the match. It's like, yeah, I guess. But 52.5 win rate on G3, Guardian 1, 15-1, still not bad. And then 51.5 on Punish. It's not a bad unit by all means. It is not a bad unit. I do think 82.5? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think she's still very strong. She is usable without any other LDs if you go for like the Sierra, Veronica kind of route. But it's really one of... Yeah, I think a lot of people are complaining because before, if she missed like a few things, you were still winning. Now, if you miss a few things, you're probably fucked. So that's kind of the thing. But if she lands everything, match is pretty... Like, if you land everything and they don't proc out, match is over, pretty much. But yeah, is it as strong as a Gianna right now? Not really, no. No, that is not the case, because Gianna has more value in the later part of the match where she has a little bit less. But I still think it is a very strong unit, and a very strong pair with also like Sierra and those kind of things. Do I actually not value her one higher than this? No, I'm actually going to put it over here. I feel like it is still a very strong unit. Let her strip all buffs again. I do feel like she is fair to that buff. Like, sure, the activation or like the how she's activating right now is fine, but she should strip multiple buffs. I do think about that is fair, that she should at least strip multiple buffs. So for that reason, do we one downer on that one? Yeah, because I think she might still be a little bit hard to use in these ranks. Like, I think in G3 people have very good runes to also move right after them in case she does miss shit. In the lower ranks, it's maybe a little bit more difficult to pair like enough stuff after her. So, gonna put it 82.5 for that reason. Buff the S2 again, Amber would be happy. I would be happy. Yeah, I hate the fucking 2 to 3 hits, man. I hate it so much. Like, same as like Antares skill 1, 2 to 3 hits. Fucking bullshit. They did the same thing on the Water Gojo S2, 2 to 3 hits. Fuck off with 2 to 3 hits, man. Make it always 3. Fuck off with those weird-ass inconsistencies for no reason. Destiny. It's not used as much in G3. Very low, but... I'm not sure if this is like a Leo-ish counter or something in the lower ranks that make it work, or just a Sibala kind of based pick, or Shizuka kind of based pick, but seems to be kind of working for these guys. Which is kind of interesting, because she is technically one of the hardest to rune units in the game. Because she needs everything, except resistance. Except resistance, she needs absolutely everything. But I think it's mainly a Shizuka base kind of thing, or a Leo counter kind of base kind of thing. But she has similar win rates like an Odin, so I'm gonna... Or not Odin, Oberon, so I think I'm gonna put it like same. No, I'm gonna put it one below, because I think she's super hard to rune. But she can still definitely be used, yeah. Ginger Brave. If you want to see a unit with an absolutely dogshit win rate, Ginger Brave. But then it's looking like a Thomas in here. Where the hell is that? Little motherfucker. 42 win rate. I know he's such a 42 win rate. Yeah, don't use that unit. I ruined it up once. I tried it once, and then I was like, I should de-rune this thing and not try it again. It's terrible. Fuck that unit. Alice. Is that actually used in these ranks? Nope. Wouldn't recommend it. Audrey might be used. I think Audrey is one of those units that a few people do undervalue, but she has a lot of okay, this is a little bit clouded due to low win rate, but 1% and then 50 sick, that is pretty freaking high though. 50 on those, Punisher also, okay, it's kind of low, Where do you use the gingerbread guy? It's just if you want to outspeed and then increase cooltime. It's like a segment but worse. That's literally the best explanation. Faster segment but worse in the rest of the kit. So, okay, that thing is not used. Giselle, maybe? Okay, does have 1.5% pick rate. 52 win rate. It's actually a pretty decent bruiser in lower ranks. I think it's also one of those Shizuka pairs. I'm gonna put it over there. I haven't really seen too much use of it, but I think if people don't bring strips and then you fight this thing, you're just fighting perma invisibility and you're fucked that way, something like that. Could be nice, could be nice. 77.5 for Giselle. Then we're moving on to some pure vanilla cookies. Yeah, it is a free win if no strips. And I think that in G3 that doesn't really happen, but in other ranks it could happen. But let's see Adriana. 48.83 in G3. Close to 50 on the G1. A little bit below 49 on the Punisher rank. It is definitely one of those units that you have to spam your whole comp around to make it work. But if you do have that cleave kind of comp, I think she's so much better than a lot of the other cleave kind of units in there. If you just go Vanessa plus this thing plus a Sonya plus like a Masha or whatever, whatnot, I think it's just a very strong comp. You do need good runes to make it work, but you need a few cleave runes. And I think she's one of the better cleave enablers, plus a very good skill too, that if you're fighting like a Ragdoll or a Gapso, at least you can still fuck them up with the S2. So I think Adriana is a very strong unit in general. So 80 is absolutely fair for that one. Let's look at Lucia, which is incredibly high in win rate in G3. Which is a 53.5, stupid unit. Guardian 1, 51.5, well, and Punisher also 52.5. Yeah, it's just, I would say one of the best, if not the best late picks that you have in the game right now. It's just, it is that it is a stupid unit, but that's absolutely an 82.5 for just being an incredibly good late pick. If you're fighting a lot of pushbacks, let's say, if someone picks Cigar plus Oliver and you're not looking at Lucia, you're playing it wrong. Or unless you just AoE CC them, then it doesn't matter. But if you're bruiser or like to the slightest potential bruisering where they take turns and you're playing this and this, and you don't look in the Lucia, you're playing it wrong. Yeah, she feels the same as Seimei. Boring as fuck, but good. That's just how this unit works. Moving on next, we have Angela talking about boring units that work. That thing is even more toxic. It's mainly toxic with a Ragdoll because this thing needs to take turns to be actually good. Win rate is 50, 51. I hate it, man. This is really one of those units, like, is it good for the game to have a good unit like that being good? I don't know. If you do have Angela with a Ragdoll, she's absolutely higher ranked, but without that, I think she's just 80. She's not a bad pick, but with a Ragdoll, maybe she's even like 85. She becomes really stupidly strong. Yeah, moving on next. Oh, we have the new favorite unit of Scribblebibble. Good old Scribblebibble with the Elena. And then first being just, yeah, super happy about it. And then be like, shit, the unit sucks. Let's see. Pick rates are non-existing, so I don't have to place it in. I don't think it's really a great unit. You have too much Heigang issues. That's just her thing. Heigang issues. If they remove that slow for a pushback, then she will become good, I guess. But without that, yeah. Zibala! Let's see how Zibala does in a lower ranks. It's about the same throughout all ranks. A little bit above 50 with a decent pick rate. I think Zibala is really good at the moment. Zibala absolutely goes at the 85 right away. Does it go better than 85? No, I think it is about fine on 85. It's like the Sierra, Zibala, Robo, those kind of comps. It's just very strong. Plus, you could also Zibala into Federica. So those are just very nice things right there. Wait, did we just get a tier 1? We got Beston with a tier 1, but it doesn't show up or something. But I see it in chat. So thank you very much for that. Moving on next. Oh man, this tier list is so godforsaken long. Next is Zima. It's kind of a strange unit. I feel like Zima is very strong if it counters Heigang by... Like if Zima was light or dark, Zima would have been insane. But as being a fire unit, he's kind of on a weird spot against water. Yeah, about 48 on the win rate. It's not really crazy. Zibala value really depends on who it's paired with. Absolutely true. 100% true. But yeah, some units are just like full supports for that reason. I think Zima for me is just 75. I don't really feel Zima being that strong. It's against water, it's just not doing that great. Moving on next to a Smicer. Talking about good units. Or annoying units. G3, about 50-ish win rate. G1, 49-ish. Punisher, also 50-ish. Very strong, very annoying unit. Win rate is not crazy high, but it's definitely... Yeah, it's definitely an 82.5. Wouldn't give it higher than that. No, I don't think I would give it higher than that, but it's absolutely worthy at 82.5. I hate this entire family, it's irritating. Yeah, if you put the whole family on revenge and you fight the whole family as like, oh, hey, we heal. Super annoying, like how much they heal. It's also like how to 0 to hero a whole family. Just buff the skill 1 to be fucking insane. I feel like a lot of Smicers are drafted in a lost pick. That is true. Like, if you draft Smicer into you being AoE CC'd, Smicer's really bad. If you draft Smicer into a Bruiser fight, Smicer's probably always really good. But I think I'm gonna put him on 82.5, because people do lock him in at wrong times. But if you put Smicer in Bruiser fights, he's almost always good. Next up, Kawachi. Gojo and Megami family. Yeah, if they buff the living shit out of the skill once, all of the Gojo and all of the Megamis would be good, trust me. But now we are looking at Kawachi. Let's see for the win rates. I think it is a very easy to rune unit as well, because you don't even need Vio on it. You can just put Swift on it. 52, okay. 52 in G1, yep. Punisher, also close to 52. Yep. It does need its strong pairs as well to perform very well. But if you do have, like if you don't have any of the strong pairs, it's probably 85. If you have at least one of them, it definitely becomes this. And what is a strong pair? Well, anything with high single target damage. So that could be a Han, could be Julian, could be even like things like Fire Monkey Masha would probably already deal enough. I think it's just an overall very strong unit. Plus, it's still good for the skill 1s, good for the skill 2s. You could pair it with a Federica. There's just a lot of things with Kawachi to make him interesting. So I think 87.5 would be fair on him. Or her. I'm legit not even sure. We go for Zinazek, which is the strongest Gian account out there right now. 52 win rate in G3. G1, 53.5. Also 53.5. That is probably one of the most insane late picks you can pick. Because it's also a good counter into Cigar, it's a good counter into Chandra, it's a good counter into Tianlang, into Heigang. It's just a good counter into a lot of shit. Win rate isn't super high. Well, win rate is pretty high. Pick rate is not super high. So I think people are kind of sleeping on this unit. I'm actually going to one-up this. I think Zinazek is really strong. Maybe I'm slightly biased because I have Gianna, and with Gianna, this thing is just terrible to play into. But I think Zinazek, for a lot of things, is pretty horrible to play into. Plus good healing on the skill 1. Best rune on Vio Revenge, because then, oh, AoE hit, I also heal. It's just a lot of stuff. Plus also having the CC form itself. Plus the cleanse, plus everything. Pretty strong unit. Ivor. Lighty Ivor. How good does the Light Ivor do in other ranks? In G3 it does very well. G1 and Punisher it does a lot lower. And I'm not surprised about that by hearing from other people saying like, why do you put the Ivor so high? I can't make it work. And you need really good artifacts and really good runes to make this thing work insanely well. Without those, I think it's a mediocre unit by best. And that's also kind of shown within the win rate itself. Would I one-up that still? She's kind of inconsistent. I think I'm still going to put it 82.5. But she is pretty inconsistent for the skills itself. She needs the really good rune quality. Also, she is a good pair for armor break setup. So if you pair that with another unit that can follow up on these armor breaks, it's incredibly strong. Without that, she's not going to solo kill shit. No. So 82.5 for that one. Let's look at the Sigrid. It's more of a cleave-ish unit. 51 on G3. Guardian 150, Punisher 51-ish. Yeah, just a cleaver unit. I feel like it's a good cleaver unit, so I do value it higher than a Bastet or something. But yeah, I think it needs like a really good... It's mostly good if you do have a Han. Without a Han, it becomes like quite a bit less. But if you want to build your cleave around it, you could build your cleave around it. But I still think that a Woolyong would probably do better in most cases. So I'm going to put it on 70. Moving on next, we have a Federica. I just saw you got a new LD as well. Thanks, Akok. Yeah, that's why I said we have some explaining to do. But I also pulled an LD5, yes. So moving on next, Federica. Federica is 48.5 G3, Guardian 1, 48.5, Punisher, a little bit higher. Kind of surprised about her win rate. I expected her to do more. But it's very common that if you leave it into the match, I'm pretty sure that if you leave it into the match, her win rate drops, yeah. And the main reason why I say that is, like, you feel like, oh, she's gonna kill my shit and then I lose a unit. But it's very common that you lose that unit and then they lose their unit right after. So it is still a good unit. I think I'll give it 80. But it is super common that the moment that Federica kills your unit, within 2 turns you kill the Federica as well. And let's look at Dark Cassandra. Dark Cassandra has a super high win rate in G3, but let's look at the other ranks. Still decent-ish, 51 and 50. It's a good pairing for, like, mainly Sipala as well, I guess. I'm gonna place her on that. No, her pick rate is that much lower that I think I'll pair it on an 80 as well. Because I feel like she's somewhat hard to fit in. You need, like, a whole comp around her to actually make it good. So for that reason, it's maybe a little bit more rough to make it work, but she can be pretty good if you put the good runes to it. And we also got Bloom with a Raider. Thank you very much. A lot of Raiders today. Oh, we also have been live for a little, well, not super long, but a little bit of time. Moving on next, Lionel. I actually seen Lionel have like a super low win rate. Okay, in G3, yeah, G3, 45 win rate in G3. So that's how good Maximilian does in G3 pretty much. But I feel like Lionel is only good if you have Maximilian. Like, it's almost not worth to place him in without the Maximilian. That's just a fair statement. So I'm just going to put him on 70. If you have Maximilian, he becomes like 80. But without Maximilian, he's just straight up 70. He's not worth ruining up if you don't have Maximilian. Like, sure, maybe some other kind of cleavage, but without that, it's barely worth it. Light Ezio. Is that thing even used? Light Ezio has the issue where it's too hard to ruin him because for some stupid-ass reason, it's still a resistance awakener. Why the hell would you a resistance awaken? I have no fucking clue. But it is an okay-ish nuker by best 70. Hello, Bloom. Let's see. Fire Bayek, also known as Ashur, not Eshir, but almost Eshir, but then Ashur. Mainly used in G3, 6% pick rate over here, but really not that much pick rate in Punisher and Guardian. Also, is, I think, one of those units that need decent amount of rune quality to perform well. But it is definitely not a bad unit out there. It's definitely one of those units that you see higher ranks play right now and then slowly transitions into low rank people also being like, hey, wait, I can also bruiser with that. It's just like a good bruiser. It does have the armor break, it does have the cleanse, it does have a silence. You actually have to put decent enough fast runes to him where you can put the like a strip silence on the enemy before, let's say, the Valkyrja moves or something like that. So you need decent runes to it to make it work. But I think it's a unit that people kind of sleep on right now. But it is definitely pretty strong the moment people start picking it up more. But yeah, you have to give the good runes to it, which for rune depth issues is maybe a little bit difficult. These are all not used except for Davarja, whatever his name is. 52.5 win rate G3, Guardian 52, Punisher also 52. Bunch of 52s, not that much pick rate though. Good last pick. I think that's just the mainly thing. How did Valkyrja become so popular / strong? Valkyrja was always annoying for the cleanse on the skill 3 with the AoE immunity, but the skill 2 cooldown reduce plus 2-turn armor break on it, that is what makes it strong. Like the S2 is what making him strong. Because you can do that pretty much every other turn. And he has decent damage from it to it out itself. Plus it's also strong pairing. Did you play Zeratul already? Yes, Zeratu's at 70. Moving on next, these are all not used. These are all not used. These are not used except for Layla. We're actually finally getting somewhere. We're almost done. Layla's 49-ish, kind of on the low side, 50-ish in Guardian, and then drops down in G3. Makes sense because people do know how to play against the Hela comp, as we so now called it. It is pretty strong if you go for the whole comp without it. Not as crazy. I think Tomoe can still be placed without the whole comp, but Layla mostly needs like the whole comp around it. So I'm gonna put that in 80, but it's definitely a nice unit if you pair the whole comp around it. But you would have to go for the whole comp. Let's go for Jessica. It's maybe used. I'm not too sure. I think Jessica might be a decent late pick here or there. But is that actually something that people use? I don't think so, actually. The answer is no. People don't use this shit. Nope. Okay. Irene? No, Irene is not going to be used. 100% sure. Byungchul. Well, first, Jungnam. Jungnam was used for a little bit, but the nerf on Byungchul for lower stun rates, or mainly the Gapso maybe even, actually I guess both, did hurt the Jungnam pretty hard as well, to the point where Jungnam is not used as much anymore. And I can't even find that big-ish motherfucker. No, definitely doesn't have enough pick rate. It is not that bad of a unit, but doesn't have enough pick rate. I do think, however, that Byungchul does have enough pick rate, and if not, more people should pick him up. Yeah, actually doesn't have that much pick rate at all, but I think Byungchul should be picked up more. If you just, like, let's say you play against the Leo with Lucifer comp. If you make a Byungchul on Vio Nemesis, it is a very strong way to fuck up the Leo Lucifer comp. Because it's super hard to kill the Byungchul, and Byungchul will pretty much one-shot their whole stupid team. So I would recommend you, if you struggle into Leo Lucifers or like other kinds of cleave teams that are just like pure damage cleaves, which you do see a lot more in P ranks and G1 ranks, rune up that Byungchul. You don't need crazy stats on it. You don't need the crit rate on it. Just a bunch of HP, decent amount of speed, and then some crit damage 4. And I would recommend him on Nemesis. But I definitely do think it's a unit that people sleep on, because this thing is incredibly annoying. Maybe it's one lower, but no, I think it's just a great 5th pick. I actually do think it is pretty nice. And next off, we have Uldong. I do want to check the Uldong in the other ranks. I do know that in high ranks, it's just highly boosted by Kalian Bao, which is legitimately the only person using it. But I do think it is actually a pretty solid unit. And it could be paired with a lot more things. 66.73 win rate. This is all Kalian Bao, you motherfucker. Okay, and this is pretty low win rates. Pretty low win rates. I think more people should pick this up, but mainly pair it as Kalian Bao does. Sure, he does it with the Burr Guild, but mainly pair it up with Junos, 100 crit rate Junos, and pair it up with crit damage Chandras. Because it just makes it so strong. It makes your Juno hit so much. It makes your Chandra hit so much. You want to pair it with a whole team that is like on max crit rate 4, or is on a team that has like guaranteed crit rate units. That just makes this Björnjo so strong. Plus, it is an AoE strip, AoE heal. Like, there's nothing wrong about that skill. Plus, I would make Björnjo skill or slot 4 crit rate himself as well. So I think it is a slept on unit. And I think it's actually for G3, it's a lot better than this. I think he's actually really, really good. I can understand him being that solid. It's just not being used much, but I want to place him in. Gapso. It might be hard to ruin your whole team around it, but I at least want to give him a place. Gapso. First pick. Win rate of Gapso is incredibly high. Holy fuckerinos. Especially in Punisher. Punisher Gapso win rate is 51.5. Then it drops down to 50-ish. That is still a nutty and a half unit. At least 85. If you have Ragdoll, then Gapso goes to 87.5. But without that, 85. I feel like that is fine. Björnjo, no. He goes for Uldong, Juno, Chandra, mainly those two, or those two plus Burkild. That is the main thing that he's drafting. So he has the Burkild armor break in that. Did you rune Racuni or raid Racuni yet? No, I didn't. I'll do that all the way at the end. There's a few units that I didn't place. Racuni is one of them. Well, let's just do Racuni now. I kind of forgot about Racuni because you don't see it being picked that much anymore, but I guess in lower ranks it's still kind of a thing. 49 win rates. Still 2%-ish pick rates. Not a bad unit. Of course he has Burkild. Yeah, he does have Burkild. Racuni, I think Racuni is a 77.5. I feel like that he's... There's better options out there than a Racuni. Like in most cases, you want to put a Gapso in the place where you could have ruined a Racuni, or could have put a Racuni, but you don't want to put a Racuni against the Gapso. So that's kind of both a bit on both roles on those ones. So I think it's an okay-ish unit, but it's nothing crazy good. Let's see how the Twin Angels do in these ranks. Twin Angel number 1, which is Judia and Ramiel, I guess. I don't even fucking remember. G3, very high win rates, 52, but it's mainly the pairing, like the Julians and those kind of things make him very strong. 50, still pretty decent, So you can definitely see like the higher the rank is, the better he would do. But I would say for G3, he's definitely up here or some shit. It's definitely one of the better units out there. But in here, I think it's fair on this rank. 85, he's still like very strong pair. But you do kind of want to pair this. Well, the main pair that you see if you don't have the... was that the 22% pick in G3? Yeah, I do think so. Yep, even almost close to 23. It's one of the highest pick rate units in G3. But a very strong pair is just this thing plus Cigar. That's just one of the strongest pairs out there because this thing is swift. And then your Cigar moves at a swift base speed pretty much. Which is just incredibly strong. So it's not even that much for the armor break itself. Plus you have the strip. A lot of single target strip potential in there. Because let's say you draft this thing. Let's say Twin Angels, Chandra, Velaju, and Cigar. You have the turn order where these things would move in front. You can single target strip everything, technically. So there's just a lot of options out there where you just have single target strips. You could also single target strip, boost up the Velaju. Velaju AoE skill and then you can go for the Chandra skill one, and then also still go for this, and you have 3 single target strips that way. There's just a lot of single target strip potential to AoE strip the whole team, pretty much. So let's say they have 1 of will, these 4 can easily strip everything, cigar, push everything back. So yeah, Twin Angels on water, very strong unit for that reason. Let's look at the light one, which Miguel Garcia. That's a very rough guess, though, I'm not sure. But G3, we do see it used a bit from mainly the same people. In other ranks, we don't really see them being used. Pretty sure about the dark one. I don't even know that name, I'm not even gonna guess. But dark one is used even less, way less. It is also not findable. Well, I'm also like 1000% sure that if the light one isn't used enough, then that thing is neither used enough. Then we look at these units. Fire Geralt might be used, but I somewhat doubt that as well. Yeah, no, I think people will rather pick up Rikas and stuff than a Fire Geralt still. This thing for Light Geralt for sure not used. Water Siri might be used. Yeah, Water Siri is used, about 50% win rate. A little bit less of pick rate in Guardian, but also 51-ish win rate. It is mainly paired with Adriana. So with an Adriana, it's definitely not a bad unit, but you kind of need to pair it with an Adriana, otherwise it is not that great. Either Adriana or a Greg, I would say, but otherwise you don't really want to do that. Light Siri is definitely also not something you want to use. I think none of the Trisses are used. Hackers, we're going to be looking at a few of the hackers, actually 4 of the hackers, I would say. Starting off with a Water Hacker, Kit, which in a sense is still kind of a worse version of a Vivachel, or not Vivachel, Veronica. Kind of bad, kind of bad. Did Jessica made it to the list? Nope. So no, we don't really see that one. We probably do see Trix. Trix is used for the team with the Hela team. Actually, does have pretty good win rate. But not in G3. Wait, that is the biggest jump we have seen. 53 win rate, 51.5 win rate, 40% win rate. That is the biggest jump we have seen through all of them. I think it's mainly based on like the Hela team. So for the Hela team, it's doing really good. For if the Hela team doesn't work, it's just garbage. I think I'm gonna put it. Yeah, I think I'll place it here at 80. No idea what... Wait, Glory wants Jessica? For what reason? That is so strange. That absolutely does not fit his team. Now let's check. Silver. That is pretty much me saying I wanted Jackson. Like, what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, it does have decent-ish win rate. It's not used as much. It does have like the 33 win rate. It's kind of a niche unit. It's not too bad with the current buff of giving like immunity and all of that kind of good shit, but I feel like it's still more like a 5th pick 33 speed lead in a weird sense than anything else. It's not a bad unit, but I'm gonna put Silver at 75. I don't think it is super crazy of a unit. It's more niche than really great. Then we have Nyx, which is a super hard counter, but a very niche super hard counter. That is the best way to put it, I guess. The Nyx, 55 win rate. Yeah, I'm not surprised that when he is used, I think he should be used more, but he's super rarely placeable. But if he is in the match, he's just going to instantly fuck up that whole team. And that is, I think against the Hey Gang Layla team, he would definitely fuck up people. Against the any Nefty's team or any Maximilian team, he would definitely fuck up people. Especially against Nefty's, because Nefty's can't land the silence if this thing is on the field, because only 2 debuffs stick, and therefore the silence is just not possible to land. But I do think that he's very good. He's a little bit slept on. I think that people should be running it up. It's just like a late pick, and it's a must ban in a lot of cases, otherwise you're just instantly fucked by that. But it's just not too many matches where you can lock it in. And now we have 2 more Gojos. I didn't put all of the other JJK units in there, because I know most of them have like 30%-ish win rates and kind of bullshit, so not even worth to be checking. But the light and the dark Gojo are the ones that I have somewhat hope for that could be decent-ish in win rate. But I am going to be disappointed by the light Gojo of not having that much win rate nor pick rate. Let's see about the Dark One. Dark One seems very strong. Big issue is still he can miss his shit. If he misses his shit, he's kind of bad. But let's see. It is about 50 or 49-ish win rate. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I think I would still give it my best a good late pick. It's not that... Yeah, it's pretty much... Wait, where's Isis? Isis is 70. I feel like he's stronger than Isis. So yeah, that's fair. Okay, so this is the whole tier list. And this was 2 hours, 35 minutes. That was incredibly fucking long. So there's nothing on the 100 tier. Do agree with that. I feel like that this is a pretty solid tier list as is. Don't really feel like having to change stuff right now. We do have the 2 units. Let's say you came in late. Wait, where are they? This is a Bath and this is a Lucifer. Dark Megami? No, Dark Megami S3 is low-key fucking weird because of the attack buff at the end. Or attack break. If there was not the attack break at the end but a slow, or anything useful, he would be very good. Well, very good. The S3 would be very good, at least. But the S1 and S2 are still shit. Win rates are not the lowest, though. Whereas with Jet, I think we placed with Jet decently high, 80. Oof. Oh, these tier lists are always so much talking. Like, I think normally if I... how many words I say when I play RTA is probably like 1/10 of the amount as when I do an RTA tier list. That's why I don't do that many RTA tier lists. They're so intense. But for that reason, if you're checking the video, please like and subscribe. Drink water. I've been drinking water. I should drink more water.